Network Armageddon, electric boogaloo. A network Armageddon, electric boogaloo. A network Armageddon, electric boogaloo. A network Armageddon, electric boogaloo. What is that? Those are fun things to say with your mouth. That's what that is. And I don't have an intro yet, but it's coming. Don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, here we are, starting off at 11:30 a.m. or p.m. Goat morning, goat afternoon, goat evening, depending where you are. Let's look at, let's talk about goats. Let's do the old goat intro for funs, just until we have the new one. Happy Liberation Day to all those who are very excited. Tariffs. Wow. I have nothing prepared for tariffs. I'm doing the wait and see. Wait and see. Why not? Oh, what happened here? I don't like this. Wait and see and wait. Although, of course, Matthew Erickson over King Build has done some wonderful work. I'm going to catch up on that stream and find out all about this Liberation Day. Hoo-ha, brew, ha-ha-ha. And let him educate the masses. What we do over here, of course, is we take narratives and we turn them upside down and inside out and take a looky-loo as to what is going on the interwebs and what people are saying and thinking, how they're saying it and what they're thinking and how they're thinking it, because that's what interests and excites me, folks. So, it's called MIRONCHUCK now. It's not you and Chuck now. It's MIRONCHUCK now. It's me. So I get to talk about the things I like to talk about. All right, let's, what is this? This is some, not all goats are made equal. Just saying. Here's some foreign goats.
صغير تولع
كثير goats.
حرك رب الغرفة وقلت شو لا
See? This is what happens when you raise goats outside of Christ. Outside of the church, goats, they get right into the fire, folks. They dive right in. Buck Johnson is in the chat. My goodness. Hello, Buck. How are you, sir? Stick around, folks. We're going to be here. We're in for the long haul. Get comfy. Get your tuchus all nice and comfy, because we're in for the long haul today. Normally we do these on Thursdays. However, tomorrow I'm going to town. I'm going to town. The other town, not the town closest to me, the other town. Ooh, exciting. And do some things around there. So I won't be around tomorrow, but some exciting things coming out for the channel. I will, we'll announce those things when there's something to announce. Next week, hopefully, there'll be some movements. I know some people have asked about more Vengeful Sun content. And guess what? That's coming. Oh, a whole bunch of it. Whole bunch of it. So that's going to be fun. So what kind of fool runs into the fire? Well, you know, some goats. I said foreign goats, my friend. Goats outside of Christ. Don't have that survival instinct. I do silly things. Now, we called y'all here, talk about a few things, talk about a few people. Basically, spread some time until Charles Spadille shows up. He's going to be joining us around the 12:45 a.m. mark, if you're on Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we always love talking to Charles. So let's do some setup. Let's do some cleanup of my bookmark so I can get rid of some stuff. Here's James Lindsay, good old James Lindsay, Conceptual James himself, talking here. I believe he's at where is he at? PragerU. Talking about the group that I think in Australia I won't be able to talk about very much longer. Some hate speech laws just got passed in Victoria, and that seems to be the epicenter of where they test out the woke, and then they spread it out through the country. I did make the prediction on X, if people follow me over there, that Australia is basically speed running the last 10 months. The last 10 years in about 10 months. So this will be really interesting to see what happens. It's like all the worst of the UK. And my prediction, of course, is they're getting ready for the crash. So now you can't talk about certain people. Weird timing. Interesting. And they've extended, of course. This is kind of the what they did in Canada, where you can't talk about certain things and certain people without getting in trouble. Ooh. And now they did that in the UK, and of course now they're extending that over here in Australia. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You might be seeing a lot of my content just change a little bit, folks, as we get around, or me moving offices officially to Bali. We'll see how things develop. But let's see what old Jamesy what old Jamesy has to talk about here. Of course, we're going to get to some Eric Weinstein being a sad slow boy later in the show. But here we go.
And it's very weird, maybe providential. I'm making this statement in this room, given this history I have in this room today. 3 months, and America is going to be tested like it has never been tested. And we are going to face a lurch from our young people into Nazi ideology, into anti-Israel hate, into anti-Jewish sentiment, into racism like we have not seen in decades, maybe ever.
What's going to happen in 3 months? You would kind of wonder. Like, what could possibly happen in 3 months that would make everyone just really hate Israel? That's weird. It's kind of a strange prediction. I mean, I'm one to make predictions, but I mean, that's very accurate. Why 3 months? And I'm not quite sure when he made these remarks. Maybe it was just before the election. So maybe he was predicting, Herr Trump, who of course has done everything for the Israel lobby known possible to man. But no. Secretly, he's big bad Trump. I don't know. Again, we'll see what he says.
How do we stop this? I was going to start with a joke. My friend said, tell a Jewish joke. Here's the Jewish joke I picked up on the internet. Maybe you won't get it. I am paid by Israel.
I'm going to make a clip. That's going to be my new clip. Because that is, I also call out for submissions. I need some schizo edit boys for a new intro for a Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo, a Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo, Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo, a Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo. What is that? That's a fun sound to make with your mouth. But I want that clip in there. Here's the thing, James. If we're going to do clips, we're going to do sounds. Here's a joke. Hey James Lindsay. You know what?
Your mother's a whore!
That's funny.
To make these remarks. I make this joke now because what I want to say is that the values that PragerU is teaching to our children are exactly the solution to this problem. Marissa did not put me...
Exactly the solution. Just, if you never say anything bad about people, then the problem goes away. That's how that works. It's just verbiage. If you just don't say it, it's fine. Just make sure, if you say it, it's illegal. If you say it, you go to jail. If you say it, you go to the gulag. That solves the problem every time. Every single time. 109 times is totally worked out.
Me up to shilling for your organizations, what the point of the joke was. The values of our country of our Bible, of our history,
Our Bible.
are exactly what stands between us and the abyss.
Okay. Oh, James. Jamesy having one. I gotta love it. You gotta love it. We're gonna get some Eric Weinstein later. The Nobody Likes Me. Of course, Eric Weinstein has sounded off saying that he's like, oh, I've seen the light. You know, James Lindsay, when you were talking about that woke right stuff, originally I didn't agree. Didn't want to cast my lot in with you. But now that I've been excluded from all the cool kids club and no one's making callbacks, and Peter Thiel still has kicked me to the curb, and I can't make any inroads and can't get a dinner invite. I don't know what's happening. What? My warts don't amuse you? What? I'm a mensch on the bench. I sit next to you. I give you nice advice. We talk about math a little bit. It's nice. Have you seen me play guitar? You know, it's amazing. And then, of course, now he's saddling up with James. It's coincidence, folks. It's not. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the thing you think it does. Okay, you're just noticing things that you shouldn't be noticing because you're evil and wrong. And our Bible tells us not to do that. So, what else we got here? We got. Oh, hang on. Have you guys seen this one? Demons are among us. Talking about Jews. So, should we ask her about her butthole? I don't think so. This is interesting. This crossed my desk, and of course during Lent. So let's say a little prayer before we play this.
On this week's journey to find the biggest and best sandwiches, and this week, pizza, I went to Crave It in Queens, New York to try their absolutely insane food creations. First, I had to try their Bubba Senior Brisket Sandwich, which was made with slow-cooked brisket, caramelized...
Okay. Hang on.
Onions.
No. This is unnatural. This is... You could actually see the serpent detach their jaw. She might as well be eating mice. Like what is this? What is this?
Smoked mozzarella.
What is not this? What? The heck? No. Nah.
Mozzarella sticks and beet horseradish mayo. Insane. Then I had to try their legendary pizzas, starting with their Super Bowl special pizza.
What is this? I've watched this video back about 15 times because I'm thinking, oh, come on, this is got to be a filter, right? This is some CGI. This is some AI demons. This is call Cyprian. Get Cyprian on the phone. Let him see this. What is going on? What is this? What is this? How does a mouth do that?
Pizza was lying.
Look at what? No. What is that? We're going to be talking about some ortho revelations. There are demons, okay, folks. If you need proof of internet demons, there you go. Oh, there's internet demons. MIRONCHUCK, you're crazy. Superstitions. What are you doing? What are you talking about? Here. Explain this then, please. Exhibit A through D. For D for demon. What? No. And the eyes, too. Food. Gluttony. Just, let's say a prayer. Prayers in the chat.
Lined with pigs in a blanket and topped with chili, nacho cheese, hot dogs, and Fritos.
Buck says Mano has that same shirt.
Yeah. And to top it all off, we had to do their love potion pizza surrounded in baked garlic knots.
I mean,
where the burrata balls are...
It's literally the quirky Chungus meme come to life, but with demons.
Literally injected with a love potion, a.k.a. honey sriracha sauce. An actual wet...
Ew. Do we do it? Do you think her butthole looks like her mouth? Do you think it's just like... Ask me about my butthole. My butthole. It's like my mouth. Vagina dentata.
Dream. On this week's journey to find the biggest and best sandwiches, and this week, pizza, I went to...
you know. So I would clear this up. All right. What else we got here? Oh, you got the Tesla stuff. We'll do that next week, maybe. Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes, shall we, folks? Meat and potatoes. Here's the UK doom loop. Starmer ignores economy. This is, of course, from the.
All right, Alexander. Let's talk about the.
Oops.
And he's going to be the most successful of the sons. Eventually, the other.
All right, Alexander. Let's talk about the state of the UK economy.
Now, I had it under very good advisement from some amazing academics and Canadian games journalists. This was not going to happen. You know, I famously appeared on a certain academic agent show, and at the end there, we're talking about Trump being installed and all these other things. At the very end, I kind of just tossed out that thing that, you know, I've been saying and been backed up by Stormy Waters, Tom Luongo, and many others, that there's a big, massive economic crisis coming in 2025. It's unavoidable because this bond market thing just going to take over, and there's what are you going to do? It's just math at the end of the day. 10-year yields, 10 year. Oh, well, there you go. So, but I was told, I was advised, not directly, of course. This was never done directly to me because why would you do that? Because, you know, cowards can be cowards. But I heard from wonderful Canadian games journalists and, of course, our British bettors that this was not going to happen. Impossible. No historical precedent for this event. And now, the Duran, to have your feelings about the Duran, but this seems to be in the news quite a bit. It's weird. Strange. Must be an anomaly. Oops.
As Starmer is playing make-believe Churchill in Paris, talking about how the UK is going to defeat Russia and how the UK military is going to enter Ukraine. We have a terrible situation that is happening in the UK with regards to the economy. Starmer doesn't seem to be paying much attention to what is happening in the economy, but things are getting very bad. What is the situation in the UK?
Before we get to this, of course, go buy Tales of the Shadow Empire, available on Gumroad. Links in the description below. Things are going to get really, really bad very fast, folks. Okay, I've been biting my tongue a little bit because situations and whatever have you. But I'm going to tell you something really, really clearly here, and you got to listen and let people know around you. Okay, in whatever way you can. In about a month and a half, things are going to get really bad. Okay, probably start in Europe. I originally predicted it's going to happen in Germany. It's going to be either Germany or UK, and things are going to start moving fast. And when it does, you're not going to have a lot of time to react. It's going to move fast. It's going to be like a rolling forest fire. Because, again, there's certain things, there's certain indications that once they take over, there's no going back. There's no recapturing it. There's nowhere to put it anywhere. It's going to take over. So the bond market, the international bond market that's basically held together by the Bank of England and the City of London and a few other interests, that's ticking over. And there's no way around it. And here's your confirmation. Here's the other big thing. And probably why Trump wants this ceasefire figured out at a minute so he can get his troops and all that stuff out of Eastern Europe, out of the European theater, and also why I don't think there's going to be an Iran war, by the way, is that in probably about a month and a half, 2 months, somewhere between May and June now, these things are not written in stone, so we'll see if there's any emergency protocols or something else done like that. You're going to see that tick over. And the big thing, and this is a lot to do with Alex Craner's work, so go check him out on Tom Luongo's show and Alex's work on Substack. What he was detailing is that the British bond market almost collapsed in 2024 and had an emergency bailout. They're out of money, and they injected it with a whole bunch of really crap garbage Ukrainian war bonds, and those will come to yield as soon as a war is over, or pretty soon, because if they were like a 2-year bond too, right? So very soon, a lot of those things are going to take over. They're going to come to fruition, and once they do, It's going to start pulling the entire economy down with it. So, just FYI. If you want to know more, Tales of Shadow Empire, go buy a copy. Go, also, by the way, while I'm shilling, Gumroad, if you're in at Gumroad, go get a membership, $10. You can do a monthly, bi-monthly, a yearly subscription. It'll get you content, all the content I'm putting up there. YouTube has been kind of doing funny stuff, so all my view numbers are all screwy. I've asked for an audit, so that's ongoing. So hopefully that's going to be fixed out in the next few weeks. But anyways, as we're progressing, if you want ad-free content, if you want to make sure you get all the stuff that I'm producing, we're going to moving really aggressively into the Vengeful Sun as of next week. So a lot of new content will be over there. Go get a Gumroad membership. It's $10 a month, or whatever you want to do, and that's a great way to support the show and make sure we can keep on going.
I have never known a prime minister who has spent so little time on domestic and economic questions as Keir Starmer does. Before the last couple of weeks, before the diplomacy over Ukraine started to crank up, and before Starmer set up his coalition of the willing and all of that, even then, apparently, he was devoting around half his time to foreign policy. Now, I suspect foreign policy is about the only thing he devotes his time to. And I think the reason he's doing that is because he cannot face what look like increasingly insurmountable problems closer to home. Now, last year.
Now, again, someone asked who listens to AA, and basically you shouldn't. I'm going to start picking some fights. I'm waiting to the end of Lent to start picking some real fights and taking some swings, because it's time now. In recent AA videos, he's basically trying to blame Trump for starting a recession. It's all Bank of England, all of it.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Buck Johnson, $9.99. Everyone model Buck. Give me some money. Give me some money, honey. Or, of course, go over to Gumroad. Get a membership. It's the best way of doing it. Just giving you love. I think you love. I take your love. I take your love, Buck. I take it. I do something with it. Throw it back to you. I don't know.
Yeah. Basically, the British economy flatlined. In January, it contracted, which came as a shock to many people. There was expectations that the economy would grow. Last in the autumn, if you remember, the government presented its budget. It increased spending considerably, mostly through it paying public sector workers. It increased taxes. And at the same time, it has committed itself to borrowing more. The government then gave various figures saying that in a couple of years' time, everything would balance out and we'd be on a sustainable trajectory. Well, that didn't last very long, because over the last couple of months, the economy has contracted, as I said. Government receipts have been lower than expected. And the result has been that the fiscal headroom, as it's called, the available money that the government was raising has turned out to be less than they expected. So yesterday they've just had to go back to Parliament, announce further cuts. A couple of days ago, they announced cuts of £5 billion on spending for disabled people. Now they've announced a further £3 billion cuts on spending for people. And we're getting indications that they're going to increase taxes in the autumn. Now, the
number one word you're going to hear very, very soon, like I said, in about a month and a half, is austerity. Get used to that word. You're going to hear a lot of it, especially out of Europe. Austerity, austerity, austerity. Why? Well, because there's no more money. The money's on fire. The original plan, and this again, Teal Deer, this is something you can learn from the Tales of the Shadow Empire. The original plan was this, right? That carbon credits and this whole Econ, Green New Deal, all that stuff was going to be the bootstrap to get into CBDCs. And the reason they were going to get into CBDCs and do everything digital, it was to basically cut out commercial banks and take all that debt and all that leveraging, all that stuff, and basically just wipe it out. The way you do that is you collapse all the major world economies all at once. This is why when they went to war with Russia back in 2021, 22, one of the big things was an econ war. Everything else was just for show, right? Because you got to stage the war. You got to make it look like a Spielberg movie, right? Because that's what people are used to. It really was an econ war. And Russia won that war the moment that those initial sanctions and all those massive, they pulled out Visa, MasterCard, and all those other places and took them off SWIFT and did all these really harsh econ war against Russia. And Russia went, oops, sidestepped because they prepared for it. Oops. Oh, well, it's okay, because we have our partnerships with China and India and the BRICS and all the rest of it. And they unveiled BRICS and did that whole program. That's when Russia won the war. Everything else has just been, literally geography. When that happened, the major plan went up in smoke. Because you have to collapse them all. You can't have any major economies left after the collapse. You got to make sure it all comes down all at once, because that bond market, $4 quadrillion in bonds, held up by about a few $1 trillion in assets. And this explains why they were evicting the Dutch from the Dutch farmers from their farmland and seizing farmland, and the French and the British. Why? They care about farmland? Well, there's some vague things in 2030 and all that stuff. Oh, girl, Hex, $20. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Where was I? Shoot. Yeah, see, Trump saying I'm going to come. It always throws me off. So the plan was to collapse everything all at once and then reboot it. That's the Great Reset. Build back better, right? Well, then the econ war didn't work with Russia. Oops. So now they're forced to continue this forever war, trying to do a 25 whatever year on war with Russia to keep these bonds from maturing, keep that bond market from collapsing. $4 quadrillion held together by a few $1 trillion in assets. They're seizing assets like crazy. And if that doesn't work, oh well, what are you going to do, right? So now that Trump's pulling out of that plan and doing tariff wars and all these other wonderful things, there's even more incentive that now Europe is really isolated. And we're going to see it out of Europe. And I think it's going to massively affect Canada, massively affect Australia. Why the Canadians are doing this narrative, that the current narrative. Well, I'm going to do more of that. I think Jim and I are going to trying to get a guest on to talk directly about Canada and what's going on there. Because I think that's going to be a major focal point for at least, especially North American politics going forward. That's like the Bank of England on the continent. And then really you have to understand this war is between, let's say, America, the emerging empires of America, Russia, and China. And, maybe with India is kind of pull the dead weight versus the old remnants of the British Empire. It's finally collapsing, and that is spearheaded by the City of London. You put in concepts like the Vengeful Sun on top of all that, and we're in for a ride, folks. Get ready for it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be something. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the cream rises to the top, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh.
The reason this is happening is because the economy, as I said, isn't growing. It's, if anything, contracting. The government is deeply in debt. It's 100% debt to GDP ratio. The UK is now around 100% of GDP.
Wait, their debt to GDP ratio is almost at 100%. So their debt ratio to their GDP is almost at 100%. This is before the bad troubles of in Germany, right? This is before Mustache Man comes in. This is hyperinflation territory. Debt to GDP ratio is almost 100% in Britain, in the UK. Remember, City of London, at the center of all that, all the major banks, the bond market itself, the international bond market is housed in the City of London. And their economy and their money is on fire. We haven't even talked about Germany yet.
Britain runs a permanent deficit on its current account. So it's having to import capital from abroad. Foreign investors worry that Britain's public finances might become unsustainable. So whenever it looks as if the government might be about to run out of money, it has to either cut spending or increase taxes. That causes the economy to grow even more slowly. And then that forces the government a couple of months later, when it becomes clear that the money that it's raising is not going to be enough to go over the same process again. Cut spending, increase taxes.
There is not enough money in the natural world to cover the bond market. You could seize every single world asset, everything. Seize everyone, their 401ks, their retirements, the entire stock market, every single little dollar, go through the couch, get the change out, all of it will not counter the bond market. This is the trick. This is the thing that you got to get straight. $4 quadrillion held up on a few trillion dollars of assets. Not enough assets in the world. And here's the thing: the more they increase, if they try to create more money, GDP go up. Yeah, here's the problem with GDP go up. GDP go up is attached to dollars. The more dollars there are in the world, the less valuable those dollars are. So yes, your GDP go up. Oh, look at your number. Oh, look at that number. Oh, unfathomable heights, innovation, feminism. What a wonderful thing, right? Here's the problem. That just means more dollars in the supply. What does that do to your dollars? Currency in general. Deflates it. Makes it worth less. So you have to continuously increase that thing. And the more you increase it, the more worthless it becomes. The more of something there is, the less valuable it is. It's why they have to put spring water on water bottles, because no one's going to pay $5 for a bottle of water, right? Until you get convinced that, oh no, this is a special water. It's got electrolytes. Look at that. Oh, it's super hydrating, folks. Come on. I like my Fiji water because it comes from Fiji, and you know that the Fijis make good things. The more abundant it is, the more common it is, the less valuable it is. Therefore, the more your GDP goes up, the less valuable your GDP is. You want a good example? Bachelor degrees. I'm old enough to remember when a bachelor degree 30 years ago was, college degree. Oh, didn't have to get a master's. Oh, bachelor's. Oh, BA in something was something to be proud of. Now, everyone's got a BA. You got to get a master's. Got to get, it's the last vestige is the PhD. And even that is now worthless because they're doing things like, where I'm situated, where they're just telling Indians, oh, yeah, no worry, it's a 1-to-1, whatever. Where'd you get your degree from? Stan? Okay, great, awesome. Here you go. What do you want to be? Pilot? Yeah, go for it. It's coming. I don't, this is not blackpilling, by the way. And yeah, again, shout out to people who are saying, Girl Hex, Stevie, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You have been in the chat supporting the show like almost single-handedly, and I appreciate. Not saying that anyone else, Buck and everyone else who's been supporting the show, that's not No shade on anybody, but I do appreciate it, man. It's been rough with all these YouTube's majiggers and stuff. So I appreciate all the support I can get. $5, $10, whatever you can give it not only is it good for my financial portfolio, as it is, but thank you, honestly.
We are in Britain in a doom loop. That is what the economy, how the situation in the economy currently looks.
Julio says, I like your work, Jason, but this whole city of London secretly runs things is stupid. Well, okay. Who do you think runs things? Then Julio? Julio says the whole debt thing also makes no sense why would they have printed trillions of dollars for the last 4 years and now they're going to crash things because there's too much debt. Well, that's the whole thing. There's no way to pay off the debt. There's no way. There's no way to pay off the debt. Here's a question. Here's something you have to ask yourself, Julio. And I'm not picking on you. I'm just because you're saying stuff. Wall Street's saying, okay, Wall Street's in charge. Is that your assumption? Okay. Wall Street stocks is just legalized betting. There's no real money there. Okay. Again, look at the bond market. Go look at the international bond market and calculate how much value is stored between 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 25-year, 50-year bonds. And what that's backed up by. The bond market, the legislation on the bond market is literally a binder. The regulations on Wall Street are massive. So anyone can buy into the bond market. Your restriction of the bond market is almost zero. That's why there's so much money stored in there. Quadrillions of dollars. Because again, it's all interest pays, right? That's how the bond market works. You get paid. You invest in the bond market because you put your money in there. It's a nice little store of value, and you know if you put it in there at a guaranteed yield in 5, 10, whatever the yield is, you're going to get that money out plus your interest on it. That's why people invest in the bond market. It's not as sexy. It's not as interesting. No one talks about it. Why? No one talks about it until it goes on fire. So you have all this money, which is stored, which does have to get paid out at some point, right? It's part of the deal. Now, maybe you can convince some of those people to reinvest that money. But if their money's on fire and the economy's going bad, they're going to want to extract that value to reinvest it. Because they're not getting better interest rates. The interest rates are getting worse. That's what's happening. The other thing, too, is that because they've been printing money like crazy, because that money printer was supposed to be only for America, and it got hijacked, got centered. That's why the shift between LIBOR and SOFR is so important. Anyways, like I said, you don't have to believe me. Go buy Taylor Swift Empire. Individual chapters are available now. Go listen to Stormy. Go listen to Tom Luongo talk about it. It's not something I came up with out of my head. I'm not smart enough to figure this stuff out. So I've talked to people who are wicked smart in this category. And again, we're gonna get more and more confirmations. Do the people know this? Do the citizens of Britain understand this? Does Dahmer understand this? Because you said he's interested in foreign policy, not so much interested in what's happening in the domestic affairs of the UK. I would even say that it's not even foreign policy. He's just concerned with Ukraine. That's it. Yeah. Yes. That's the only thing he's concerned about is Ukraine. Nothing else. Well, if Julio, I'll give a link. I'll post a link that Julio can jump in on, and we can discuss. We can discuss live. I got Charles is going to show up at 12:45. So I wanted to get through a whole bunch of this stuff before Charles got here. But if Julio wants to get on there, and we can talk about it, either this week or next week, we can set it up. Julio, reach out to me on X if you want. Get in my DMs, and we'll sort it out. And we can, if you don't want to do, if you don't want to do it because you're on the spot right now, and I want to put you on the spot. Yeah, Anon, send me an article. Follow me on X. Send me an article, man. My DMs are open. And if you wanna have it out there, Julio, I'd be more than welcome to host you.
Do the people understand? I mean, are they seeing this? Do they see him go to Paris every couple of weeks? We're having these summits in London about Ukraine, and are the people saying, what is this guy talking about with Ukraine all the time? What is he talking about? UK military in Ukraine that they don't have. To go to Ukraine to do what? Why is he talking about money? He's still talking about money to Zelensky, money that they don't have. I mean, what's the general vibe? What's the sentiment in the UK about all of this?
Well, one of the major problems, before I get to Starmer, I think it's important to point this out. I mean, there are lots of underlying problems in the British economy which have been building up over a very, very long time. And governments have been repeatedly making them worse. The decisions governments have been making, stretching all the way back, arguably to Blair's time, have ultimately undermined the foundations of the British economy more and more. Some would say going back even further to Thatcher's time and even beyond that. But anyway, let's not focus on the history. But these underlying problems have been made much worse over the last 2-3 years because of British government policy, specifically on the issue of Ukraine. Britain gives Ukraine direct grants. They're running at about £3 billion a year. Sometimes they've been more than that. The British government has been sending weapons to Ukraine on a huge scale. That has left the British armed forces in a very, very poor condition. One of the reasons they're having to spend more on defense is precisely because they need to re-equip the army because the army is so short of weapons now.
Here's a problem, though. They've deindustrialized Germany and many other places that, build weapons. There's Sweden left. Sweden still builds weapons. A few places in Scandinavia still builds weapons, but they've basically destroyed their entire industrial base in Germany. Oh, and by the way, that industrial base in Germany and other places in Europe was held together and able to do a whole bunch of mass production because of cheap Russian energy, which they also got themselves officially off of. Oops. I talked about this with Jim Jotras on Then and Now this past week, Tuesday. Go check that one out too.
They have created a state of international tensions. They've contributed very much to creating a state of tensions in international tensions. There's fear of war with Russia. They're talking about having to increase defense spending. To address that, they never explain their own role in creating this crisis in international relations. And of course, the sanctions, which they so urgently, so insistently advocated on Russia, have had a massive, effect on the British economy itself. They've resulted in very, very much higher energy costs. Prices for energy in Britain are amongst the highest in the world. And that's also had a cumulatively bad effect on the British economy.
The number one way to drive down prices to get to compete against inflation, all the rest of it, is to have low energy prices. Energy prices are the only thing that affect everything. Everything. Little personal story. I used to manage restaurants. I was a general manager of restaurants for a long time. In Canada, we're going back almost 20 years now. I was managing a place. And the gas prices got to such a degree that we used to get free deliveries. And we were a little tiny bistro. We did amazing numbers, a lot of turn burns. And we would get deliveries constantly through the week, 10, 20 deliveries, depending on the week, depending on the season. And I basically had the job of trying to find ways to whittle down the pricing because our pricing was out of control because all of a sudden the gas prices went up and all the delivery companies started charging a surcharge on deliveries. Now, the surcharge itself wasn't that big per delivery, but you add all those things up and suddenly it becomes a big deal. So I had to find ways to reduce the amount of deliveries. And one of the ways I did was trying to find ways to reduce milk and, milk usage and all these little tightenings of little things that wouldn't affect the buyer. So the customer wasn't going to pay higher prices and wouldn't necessarily notice a smaller quantity. So you kind of had to hide things a little bit. Okay. It took me months to track down, do different suppliers and do all that, and just coming down to milk. So energy prices affect everything. It raises your pricing. All of a sudden you get surcharges, you get rising prices across the board, and anyone who's trying to manage those economies, micro, macro, have to do a lot of juggling all of a sudden. And I'm talking about a small little restaurant in Montreal, right? We're not talking about a major country. That's what's happening too.
Moreover, there's strong reasons to think that energy prices are going to surge again in the autumn. We've been discussing various programs how problems of gas supply, the amount of gas in the European reserves is now at critically low levels.
Interesting data point. Russia just stopped massive oil supplies through some of their pipelines they were using with Kazakhstan. Now, they had Russia saying it's because they had to do integrity checks and all these other things, which might be very much true. But here's the other thing: is that Kazakhstan pipelines are feeding in from Kazakhstan, to Turkey, and from Turkey up through into Europe. It was a little bypass for Russia, and Russia just shut down those pipelines indefinitely. Well, we must check integrity. We don't want bad oil. So if this shutdown continues for more than a few days, it's going to cost Kazakhstan, Turkey, and the Europeans billions and billions of dollars, and energy, which is going to do this to the energy costs. Paying attention? Got it? When you hear people online saying, "Oh, Turkey and Russia are going to be friends," no. That's crayon eating stuff. We don't do that here on this channel. We follow all the little tiny little news stories and put them together and present them for you folks. And I know you don't like hearing it, but that's what it is.
Nobody is talking about this, but there is a real possibility that come the autumn, there will be shortages of gas. Gas will have to be bought at premium prices, liquefied natural gas. That's quite likely to be passed on in higher prices to UK consumers, which will depress the standard of living even further. So nobody wants to talk about this, but Ukraine is now a major reason why the government, from one budget to another, finds itself shorter and shorter of money, and why it's having to cut spending and or increases taxes in order to balance things out, so that foreign investors and foreign bondholders will continue to put money into Britain.
What did he just say? Foreign bondholders? Weird. I thought Wall Street ran things. Huh. Julio, if you're still here, man, reach out to me in my DMs on Twitter. We'll set it up for next week. You can call in, and we'll discuss. I bring my information. You bring your information. We see what happens, my man. We see what happens. I bring my watermelons. You bring your watermelons. I bring 7 coconuts. You bring 6. We see what we got. We got a half dozen. We got a sale on coconuts suddenly. Oh Lord, I get the bond market on coconuts.
Coming back to what people think, I think Starmer probably deep down has some understanding of this, but he doesn't want to face it. I think he is not prepared to change the policy.
I'm going to disagree with Duran here. Well, I mean, no, now maybe, right? Maybe Starmer's been advised or something like that. But a lot of reports out of Germany when deindustrialization in Germany was happening, and now all of a sudden China's just buying up their entire automotive industry, like Volkswagen and all those places like Audi, those little tiny pissant companies, whatever. The reports, and I think it was actually on Duran or John Mersheimer or someone who was saying this, because it was asked directly. He's like, hey, you have contacts in Germany, in the German government. Do they understand what's going on there? And he's like, I don't think they do. They're in complete and total denial that it's happening. We want it tonight, Buck's saying. Julio, reach out, man. What we got? Hang on. Let me see. I can share the link here. That's fine. But we only got a little time before Charles shows up. Just saying. We want it tonight. I want to do what the people want. I want to do what the people want. Hang on a second. All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. We'll do this. Okay, Julio. Is Julio still here? Me and Julio down in the schoolyard. Here you go, Julio. They want it tonight, Julio. We can make it tonight. We can make it tonight. Tonight on Lovers and Other Strangers. We can make it tonight. We can make it right now. Or we can make it next week. Tune in. Little teaser trailer. I don't want to put you on the spot, man. And because I know you're active in chat, and I have nothing against you, but you're wrong, and I can prove it to you. Right here in Western Australia tonight. Oh yeah, brother. Good to get you. Because I'm going to cut a promo on you there, Julio, because you're garbage. You're garbage just like Tito Santana, Gallina. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Get yourselves over here. Uh-huh. Oh, that's... I lost my Randy when it started getting into... Yeah, baby. Come on over, baby. We're going to funk it like a monkey, baby. The American dream. Visit hard times on the dusted roads. But I said, like I said, Julio, if you, I'm not gonna make it a thing. $5, girl hex.
What a lovely day!
Not gonna make it a thing. Take it or leave it. Join in right now. We have a discussion. Otherwise, we can do it next week. Reach out. Reach out. Put your hand against my hand. I'm reaching out to you right now. Reach out to me. Because Rick Fay's put some hard times on the distant road.
On Ukraine. As has been discussed many times now, he's basically a cutout. The political class, the people who run it, Starmer. For them, Ukraine defeating Russia, getting Europe back into the EU, all of these things are far more important than what happens to the British economy.
Getting the UK back into the EU.
Yeah. Back into the EU, sorry. All of this is far more important for them than what happens in the short or medium or even long term to the British economy. So he will just continue doing what he wants to do. And at a psychological level, I think he finds it easier, much easier, to hold summit meetings with Macron, to talk about Putin and what a bad man he is, do those kind of things, than to confront the major increasing underlying problems of the British economy.
Yeah. Okay, let's pivot. Let's pivot to this. Because, baby, what we're going to look at here, we're going to look up over here now. We're gonna get some Orthodox, yeah, baby. We're gonna listen to which one is it? Let's do this one. Prophecy. When Israel hits Iran's nuclear facility. This is a prophecy of World War III. Buck Johnson, who's on Mount Athos, might have heard some of the monks over there talking about this, because this is a prophecy that's been going around since Saint Paisos, or the elder Saint Paisos, as the elder Paisos. He was the elder in Mount Athos. He, of course, is making some of these predictions, some of these revelations. And this has been built on over time. And let's hear what we have to look out for, because this is, I believe, what we're going to start seeing very, very soon.
There's a prophecy recently commemorated and by
shout out to Mr. Peter, to Father Peter Hears,
Metropolitan Neophytos, which says that one day, this was uttered years ago, 20 years ago, by an ascetic in Crete, Theodore, an ascetic in Crete. He says, one day you'll be sipping coffee, you will hear the news that the Israelis have hit the nuclear program of Persia. That will be when the major worldwide events will start. At the same time, another sign, either shortly before or after, Erdogan, the head of Turkey, will fall, and this will be the sign of the great events that were mentioned in these prophecies.
Και στο τέλος των παγκόσμιων πόλεμων, ο οποίος ξεκίνησε, όπως είπαμε, από τη Συρία, Ουκρανία, Ισραήλ, αλλά μετά την Περσία, όταν χτυπήσουν το...
For context, this is Metropolitan Nephilius. I hope I'm saying that right. I need Matt over here to correct me. He's been compiling all these prophecies. Quite famously with the Orthodox Church, especially out of Mount Athos, some of the prophecies were about COVID, and those were made. I want to say some of them were made in the 90s, but certainly in the early 2000s, and they basically predicted COVID down to the letter, saying exactly what it was going to be, and that there's going to be a virus that's going to require vaccines, and put the world into a new paradigm. They also predicted, of course, the coming of the time when you will have to bear a number to access your bank and your finances. I believe that's coming very, very soon. So we should always pay attention to this. I know there's one channel out there, and help me out, chat, remind me of it, called World War Now, I believe. I need to check out those boys more and maybe get them on the show with Jim. But they've been doing a lot of work with these prophecies and doing geopolitical analysis with these prophecies in mind. I'm starting to onboard these now more aggressively. I was aware of them, but I wasn't really using them as much. And now I think it's more prophetic than it's happening. We already have Israel threatening to strike Iran. We already see a head-on collision between Russia and Turkey, which is also part of these predictions. We're seeing these things start to happen. Now, does that mean it's going to happen next year? I don't know, right? We do know that Erdogan is saying he's going to step down as of 2028, and there's already been movements against him in Turkey to depose him. So he may not last to 2028 is a big thing. We know that between now and 2030, there's some major world events happening, and it's all sizing up for a major event.
Το ειρηνικό πρόγραμμα της Περσίας οι Εβραίοι, τόσο η Κίνα όσο και η Ρωσία θα υποχρεωθούν να αντιδράσουν. Οι προφητείες λένε των Αγίων, και πρόσεξε, όχι μόνο των Ελλήνων Αγίων, και των...
Julio says, he can't tonight, guys. Let's build the suspense. Next week's it's on, so next week. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard, folks. I'm gonna pull down his shorts and show the world that Julio's just like Mike Walls. Mr. No Balls Walls. And whatever balls you need, whatever balls you want, whether it be handballs or volleyballs or footballs or softballs, baseballs or jingle balls, goat balls, chicken balls, bouncy balls, or just big round, perfectly shaped balls. Whatever balls you need, whatever balls you want, whatever balls you crave, whatever balls you are in the market for, you can be sure of one thing and one thing only. Mike Walls and Julio Hernandez. Ain't got none. That's called a promo, Julio. Oh, yeah, because you're trash guy, you know. Get on here. We're going to debate. We're going to debate Wall Street versus the City of London. Yeah.
Ρώσων και των Ρουμάνων και των Σέρβων ότι θα ρίξουν πυρηνικά και το εκπληκτικό.
Julio, he says he's been blessed with large hands. I'm going to tell you something, my friend. The size of your unit is secondary to the size of your big giant balls. Those are the things that give life to the world. Length of the shaft ain't got nothing to do with the big giant balls, and I don't get a voice like this with tiny grapes, my friend. No, sir, I got cantaloupe. I got a condition. It's called aggression. It's called masculinity. Is in short supply, but we're gonna prescribe something to your son.
Ξέρετε τι είναι? Ο Πούτιν και η Κίνα δεν το θέλουν αυτό. Το θέλει πάρα.
Basically, Tilde, so far, he's saying the New World Order wants that very, very much. They want the nuclear war. If you tie this into a lot of other people looking at Project 2030, a lot of things coming out of the WWF and all these other groups, one of the consistent things is they're talking about reducing world population. Some say to 500 million, some others say to under 1 billion or 1 billion, something like that. But reducing the world's population seems to be key. Now, you can take two positions on this. You can take position A, which is these things are happening and they're just kind of crashing in on it, which still works. Or position B, these things are done on purpose. When you understand that liberalism is Luciferian to its core, and what we're trying to liberate ourselves, what the proponents of liberalism and nominalism are trying to do ultimately is liberate ourselves from God, from the image bearer status. We are given this amazing thing called the image bearer of Christ. We are the image bearers of God. With that comes a whole set of responsibilities and duties. And liberation from that image bearer status, which would be transhumanism, I would say, is to alter humans past that status. Once we are no longer the image bearers, what are we? Whose image do we bear? That is a big question. And I believe that this is why they want this. They want these destructions. They want this reduction in human life, in human value, in the percentage of people who are in the actual image bearers. And if we were to go back to Revelations and we go back to the time of great suffering that has been predicted, how do you get the Antichrist? How do you get these things? Well, you get these things from reactions. This ties into what I'm predicting about the vengeful son and many other things. We'll keep pulling this out over the next few weeks.
Πολύ η νέα τάξη πραγμάτων. Τους εξωθούν. Αυτή είναι η λέξη η ελληνική. Τους πιέζουν.
So that is a fascinating video. Father Peter Heers is here with us. Could you please tell us a little bit more about who that man was, Father Peter, and a little bit more about that prophecy?
So that is Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu. He is a disciple and a close confidant of several contemporary Orthodox saints, Saint Paisios, Saint Porphyrios, Saint Iakovos, Saint Evmenios. And he's labored for the last 20 years to collect all of the prophecies that came down to us from these saints and others throughout history. And he is constantly teaching and telling the world what the Orthodox saints have to say about the events that are coming.
Could you talk a bit about the significance of Turkey and what do you think in light of the prophecies, how will Turkey's involvement happen here?
Well, the key sign of the disintegration of Turkey will be the end of Erdogan, according to the prophecies, and the new leadership will be inclined toward the West, and they will do the bidding of the West. And the key thing that will happen was they will close the straits and not allow the Russian military to go to the Middle East, where a lot of their interests will be at stake. And that will happen during a short war between Turkey and Greece, because that's a prerequisite for these straits to be shut. There must be a war, fair state going on. Otherwise, they're not justified by international law. So,
and what would predict the shutting of the straits? Russia's involvement in the Black Sea. So we already have details of Russia moving on Odessa. And I've said this on Twitter. I know some people have taken umbrage with the word moving on, because they think, well, unless it's boots on the ground, unless there's actually people, Russians invading Odessa, that's not moving on Odessa. However, they're moving on Odessa in many ways, both with drone strikes, both with continued strikes from air and sea, and politically. So when we interject the ideas of federalization into Ukraine, which is an idea that's been floated, and I think that's kind of why Putin's so hot on the UN idea, because if you inject the UN, you would actually get closer to the idea of federalization, and you could start to shoehorn those ideas in through with allies like China, Iran, and a few others who sit on especially powers that sit on the Security Council. If Ukraine, the future of Ukraine is to be federalized, which means split up into smaller oblasts, provinces, areas, then Odessa could be its own Autosoviet sort of area, its own independent little area, at which point Russia could play pressure on them. And Odessa is majority Russian-speaking, majority Russian people living in Odessa. Oops. If Russia takes control of the Black Sea, or starts getting even more and more involved in the Black Sea, this is one reason why Europe told Russia they can't reinstate the grain deal, which is disastrous for most of the global South, and even for Europe, because it's basically going to lead to mass famine and starvation. But since that deal's been off the table, and since moving oil and gas through the Black Sea is also trying to be stipend, if Russia gets their toehold in the Black Sea, either through Odessa or through other means, of course, they've already taken over a whole bunch of land in and around the Black Sea, a lot of ports, a lot of movements, a lot of Russian movements in the Black Sea now, that directly challenges Turkey. This is why Turkey and Russia will never be friends. Because Russia, a nice direct line to Greece and Cyprus and a whole bunch of other places. This is the head-on collision.
The prophecies are that Turkey will strike Greece over the disputed 6 miles between the two countries. And they have long had this dispute, well-known dispute going back decades and decades. And they will get the nod for this because ultimately it will be in the best interests of NATO to shut the straits and keep Russia out from the Middle East. And so this is all very much, whereas 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it would be hard to see these things as possibly materializing, even though the prophecies go back many, many decades. St. Pius was proposed 30 years ago, and he was saying these things. Now you can see them literally in front of us. Erdogan's party has largely lost power in the last elections. He has said he's going to step down, and now we're on the verge of possibly the attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, which is also said as a sign to provoke the larger war. So Turkey is, according to the prophecies, at the center of all the development going forward.
Interesting times. We are interesting times, my friends. And again, don't take my word for it. The elders at Mount Athos seem to agree that things are moving forward and moving forward into a conflagration, into a ultimate act of total violence as the eventual sun, the spirit of this eventual sun, begins to move through not just the West, not just your political group, not just this or that, but against us all, and becomes the new spirit of the age. And that spirit of the age will be youthful, masculine, and a desire to tear things down. The more and more they become aware of these deceits and these lies and these empires of lies and these betrayals, these generational betrayals that people are waking up to. It's the difference between red-pilling small groups of men and red-pilling the world. And once you red pill the world, you're going to get reactions. And it won't be just confined to a bunch of spurgs on the internet who have no power and have to talk in code because they're going to be put in jail. It's like, what happens when you get the entire mass of people, the entire West, all the men in the West going, wait a minute. This has all been a lie? This is GDP go up is bad? What? It's coming. You know? I prophesized. Should watch my language. I predicted that what we're going to start seeing is a need for a Western glasnost and perestroika, and we're certainly seeing the glasnost portion of this happening now. The revealing, and that mass revealing is happening, and it's going to excite some people. The passions will be excited, and this is. Part of my thing with Eventual Son is that we're watching Satan chasing out Satan. And in that 10-year period or so, there'll be great enthusiasm. So it's going to start feeling like it's like a good thing. It's going to feel like justice. The bad people are going to get the bad things done to them. And that's good. Fair. Just like civil rights. Civil rights got coded back in the 1960s as good. And if we're going to steel man that position from that time period, it was hard to disagree. That's why it won out. There was resistance to it, of course, but why it won out is because a mass of people said, no, based on these criteria, based on these assumptions and priors, we have to allow this because to not do it would be unliberal of us. The revolution continues. So the revolution that started within the category of father and of masculinity transfers to the category of mother and femininity, and now is transferring to the child. And as I said, what do we have? 100,000 or so young children, teenagers, over the last 5-10 years, at conservative estimates. That's all we know of, at least in the continental United States, the numbers I've looked at. Maybe that's changed, but at around 100,000 or more of these kids have been fed puberty blockers. And they're waking up to the fact that that's not fixing their situation. And in fact, they're waking up to the fact that they've been deformed. And they're waking up to the fact that they've been lied to. That's an army. That's an army of very angry people with a legitimate bone to pick. That's why I would advise anyone who's a doctor to seek high ground. Because as we learned with the Luigi Margione story, here's a kid, has a back problem, goes in for a surgery, the surgery gets botched, he's in critical pain. He's in constant pain, affecting his life, affecting his love life, all that stuff. What does he do? Does he go after the doctors who did that to him? No, maybe he can't get access to them. What does he do? He goes after a health CEO. Why? He wants to make a statement. He wants to enact vengeance on the system that hurt him. There's your vengeful sons. Charles is saying he's running a bit behind. Let's get to what? Who said something over here? Who needs it? I ain't gonna pick a fight. Friend Lee says, "Dude, your banter is so cringe, it's unbearable. I'll fight you. I'll fight you, friend Lee. I'll fight you. You like that cringe, don't you?" Look, there's a link. You can jump on right now. We're waiting for Charles to show up. You click the link, show up right now. I'll keep my eye on the guest thing. Come on, friend Lee. Show us how it's done. Teach me. Edify me. Give me some lessons. Let me get some lessons in your banter. I want to hear from the master, or the master banter. Anytime, man. It's over there. Let's see here. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein. Is pissed about being ignored. It's from Revenge of the Sis.
see Eric Weinstein whining that Trump people aren't backing him up?
No. I am getting so much abuse out there.
Yeah.
Why is
From
this so
people
low?
on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder.
You didn't fight shoulder to shoulder, Weinstein.
You know what? Let's just get to. Hang on, Eric Weinstein. Let's get to the original video. What is this from? Eric Weinstein's sad. Let me see if I can find the original here. Terrence Howard. Bro, what? Houston Dillon. Oh, there. Look, we're here. That's nice.
You're still a lefty fuck. You had a couple views on COVID that people kind of liked, but you're not someone that's all of a sudden.
Mela says, "You watched Revenge of the Sith?" No, I didn't. I actually watched the video that they're commenting on. Let's see if they have it there, because I'd rather listen to that guy. Revenge of the Sith, comedy Weinstein, satire, commentary. Blah, blah, blah. Not sure.
A conservative thinker.
Yeah, no, you're dog shit.
I don't like you, and I don't like Sam Harris, and I definitely don't like that fuck Dave.
What's it called? Eric Weinstein Lazy is it called? Yeah, here we go. This is better.
I am getting so much abuse out there.
Yeah.
From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with.
Are your feelings, let's say, moderated by the fact that so many tech?
Let's see if he's still in here. Hey, what's his name here? Friend? What is his name? Friend something? Hey, friend.
And why should I care?
Oh, wrong button. Hey, friend.
Your mother's a whore!
How's that for banter?
Bros are now involved in this because these are not, say...
They're not tech bros. They were my friends.
Well, okay. So, but that's what I mean. So you know a lot of these.
Yeah, but they just changed. Like, it was crazy how many of them have just changed. I didn't know how shallow this was.
All right, so it looks like Eric Weinstein is having a tough time once again. This guy's always going through something. He loves to whine. I mean, it's literally in his name, so I guess we shouldn't be that surprised. But now his problem is people are being too mean to him on
That was a good one.
Twitter, and none of his friends will stick up for him. And he also feels like he's been left behind by Trump and his supporters. Like, he's all disappointed that Trump never reaches out to him to ask him for help with his administration. Like, Eric thinks he deserves to be part of Trump's team because he's been fighting woke culture longer than everybody else. That's how far up his own ass this guy is. Like, on this Dave Rubin podcast, Eric keeps talking about how he's been fighting a war for decades, and he feels like he's being disrespected now because all these tech guys who jumped on the Trump train at the last second are getting more attention than him.
That I just sat through a bunch of years of being asked to kiss the woke ring and...
Well, this is also part of my Neotraz prediction, right? What's that? What's that prediction? What do I talk about here? What that's it. Here's my other prediction. And you guys can hold on to this. I'm going to make a clip. Hold on to this. I won't say how many years it'll take because that's beyond me. But when wokeism is done and is never mentioned again, ever, right? Or used in like only referential kind of things, like, whew, what a crazy time, what a crazy decade, right? After that happens, there'll be a period of normalization, and then the next thing is that all these screaming liberals, Bill Maher's and all the people, wherever that, will flip a script into becoming neo-traditionalists, like some sort of a version of Peterson overnight. And people in your family who are blue-haired, gender fluid, et cetera, will be wearing very nice frocks and talking about apple pie. I guarantee it. See, Buck says, "Friend, go on the show right now and duke it out. We're here you're here right now. Entertain us." He's not going to do that, Buck, because he's a coward. See, it's a coward. He's a big old coward. So it's okay. It's okay, friendly. Just sit there and take it.
Your mother's a whore!
To bend the knee to the woke and all this kind of nonsense. I've been fighting this war at some levels since the late 80s, so it's like 35 years. Because quite honestly, I was on this train a long time before Trump ever boarded. And, this idea that a bunch of, in particular, like the tech right, they just jumped on this thing 4 seconds ago, and now they're acting like, they've been here the whole time. It's incredibly disrespectful. I'll be entirely honest. One of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like,
what war? What war exactly? This has been going on since the 1990s. I talked about this, and maybe we'll do a clip of this at some point. But on Charlie Rose, classically, Chris Hitchens was on Charlie Rose back in 1995 with a whole bevy of feminists at the time. Sex pop, there was like 3 of them. And they're all, the 3 faces of feminism at the time. And a few of them were talking straight intersectionalism. And this is in 95. So this has been cooking for a long time, my friend. And I agree with him. He's saying, I've been fighting this since the 80s. Well, calm down. No one knew this since the 80s. But if you've been fighting it since the 80s and failing so badly, then that's why we don't listen to you. Friendly says, get on for what? I don't want to fight. No, you just want to sit there and chime in like an asshole. That's all you want to do. You want to say, oh, you suck. You suck. You suck. Oh, I don't want to fight, though. Oh, what? I actually come on the stream and say it to your face? No, I don't like that imposition, sir. What are you calling me? What are you calling me? This is what I'm saying.
Your mother's a whore!
That's what I'm saying.
Did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement. My endorsement mattered. Like when they called Bobby said, I have things that I want.
Yes. Oddly enough, Eric, the endorsement of a Kennedy is more weighty than your warts. Weird. I don't know. How did that happen? You think that, sure, he's a Kennedy, legacy political family in the United States, but I mean, have you seen his warts? Have you seen Eric's warts, though? Come on now. His Schwartz is wonderful. Have you even seen the Schwartz so strong? His circumcision is the best circumcision in the world. Oh my goodness, it's such a clean cut you couldn't even tell. It looks like it looks natural. That's what it is.
I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about science?
Yeah, so he's definitely bitter about all these people who got positions from Trump while he's being left out. It's so funny. Like, Eric thought he was part of Trump's team and they would be consulting with him, but they really want nothing to do with him. And you could tell he was getting frustrated about it leading up to the election because he kept complaining about it on Twitter.
So Friendly says, I'm not saying you suck. Your content is good. I'm here because Pete said everyone should check out your show. Well, thank you, Pete. Pete Kononis, appreciate that. Pete's a good man. But it's pretty challenging, not going to lie. Well, like I said, if you want to show me, man, the link's up there. Scroll up. You can find the link. Come on. Show me how to banter. Educate me. I'm very humble. I'm not saying I'm the greatest banter in the world. I'm not saying I'm a master banter. But you're being called out, sir. Not just by myself, but many people in the chat. And if you'd like to come on and show us all how to banter professionally, the stage is yours. I will ask Charles to push back a little bit. It's good. We'll just show.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Girl Hex $5. We love the banter. I love the $5. Appreciate you.
He said, I'm failing this election. I tried, but I simply failed. I cannot work within these concepts. My world, my country, my America is not on the ballot. And of course, everybody in the comments was roasting him. Even Dave Rubin's like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but how are you not voting for Trump? And then after the election, Eric posted another tweet where he said, for whatever reason, the campaign doesn't reach out much. I don't know why, but this is an observation, so I don't want to take crap for observing it. And again, people in the comments and some of his friends, I'm sure, were like, dude, the world doesn't revolve around you.
Hey, let's go back a little bit for a second. Oh, there's Charles Haywood being mentioned here as well. We'll get to the Charles comment in a second, but let's just read this out for a second. For whatever reason, the campaign doesn't reach out much. I don't know why, but that's an observation, so I don't want to take a crap for observing it. Why do you think they have to reach out to you, Eric? Like, you've been kicked to the curb by 109 times, Eric. You've been asked to leave 109 times, Eric. 109 times. Make it 110, make a nice round number. There are many dissident experts out there. Their phones, I love it. It's so now Eric Weinstein is the dissident right. That's fantastic. Their phones. This is the guy who also said that Curtis Yarvin should be dismissed out of hand because he's a wackadoodle fascist. The phones are not ringing, and when you point this out, it is treated the wrong way. Boo hoo! Everyone has a handout. 109 times, Eric. It's so dumb, it's funny, because these are exactly the people who have stood up for free for 30 plus years. Just effing calling them. They precede MAGA. Bottom line, there aren't enough hardcore MAGA among the experts who know where the bodies are buried to run and fix the government. But there are dissident experts everywhere who will work even better in these positions. People who are aligned with the idea of clearing out the rot. I love the idea. Buckshot says, Volp says, we like the numbs that go hard. And Buck says, Volps, you must be 45 to 50. Your humor tracks with me. Ain't no shorts humor, my friend. You can't make those funnies wearing shorts. That's what I'm saying, because shorts are for women and children, queers. So I love this idea that Eric Weinstein is triangulating now. Eric Weinstein and James Lindsay are the true dissidents. Calling it out. Letting people know. Letting the people know that things aren't... there's something rotten in the state of Denmark, my friends. And that something rotten is anti-Semitism, of course. That's what all dissidents agree. That anti-Semitism, whoa. Elite theory, all those things, we're with you. But as soon as he starts getting anti-Semitic, pull the ripcord, we're out.
And again, people in the comments and some of his friends, I'm sure, were like, dude, the world doesn't revolve around you. Like,
Charles Haywood said, intellectuals are grossly overrated. Doers have no need of any of the people you list. This is, of course, because Eric was waffling on voting for Trump. He's like, I'm failing on this election because now I'm going to vote for Trump, but I'm not even sure. What is this thing? What does the ADL says? I'm making calls. No one's getting back to me. Who knows? Friend Lee says I'm 50. Very good, friend. I'm 47. Welcome to in internet years. We are Methuselah. We are the ancients.
You'd even endorse Trump. Remember a couple weeks ago, you said he failed this election. So you'd think Eric would get the hint, but of course not. This will never stop him, and he's still complaining about it. It's hilarious. Like these wines.
Let's be nice to friend, okay? Let's be nice to friend. If he's coming in here from Pete, let's be nice. He said his piece. He can have his opinion. They're like assholes. Everyone has one, so it's okay.
Weinstein brothers have no shame. Like they'll never realize how embarrassing the shit they do is because their egos are just so big.
But just so we just be clear here, a friend.
Your mother's a whore!
I mean, if you remember last year, his brother Brett went on Rogan's podcast and admitted that Elon had to block him because he wouldn't stop annoying him. Like he kept messaging Elon because his Twitter account wasn't trending enough. And Elon responded and said, stop spamming me, and then blocked him, which is pretty embarrassing. Like you'd think, why would Brett want to admit this? But the best part is Brett's ego is so big, he didn't even understand what was going on. He was all confused about it. And he's like, why would he say, stop spamming me? Why would he block me? He can't even believe that Elon wouldn't want to spend his time listening to him complain about his Twitter account. So he thought it must be a mistake. Like he was so confused about it. And I'm sure he lost a lot of sleep over it. Elon blocking you for some of these people, that's like the end of the world.
And I started to tell him about this trend stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He blocked me. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't think he's on the other team. I don't think...
He blocked you?
Yes. He blocked me, and I'm blocked to this day, which seems strange.
Hey, you know who's also blocked me? Jay Dyer. Let's start that program. Let's get Jay Dyer to unblock me. So we all throw a party. And then I'll be like, I'll be like, I'd honestly be like a dog chasing a fire engine. I'll go like, I get it, and I don't know what to do with it.
It could be that he's forgotten that he's done it, but I don't think so.
Why would he block you?
I have no idea. It makes no sense. The last thing he said was, stop spamming me, which was very strange for a guy who said he wanted to have another meeting. Right?
How many messages were you sending him?
3 or 4.
an hour every day, routinely, because Elon, pay attention to me. Oh, I'm sure like 3 to 4 messages, every day, and they're like walls of text, like fucking Facebook text. You know what, man? I don't miss the Facebook days. I'm off Facebook. I've been off Facebook for a while now. And I think about those days and those like walls, the paragraphs, the novellas that were written on Facebook. Just that I consumed entire servers.
Stop spamming me.
It was very strange.
Buck, I honestly think that I got part of a blockchain because it doesn't make any sense. But it it doesn't even matter now because it's part of a bit. So I'm like I said, if Jay unblocked me tomorrow, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like, oh, shoot. Now I have to have him on the show, and I can be like Dasha and be like, all like, hi, Jay. Eastern Catholicism, discuss. Like,
But
yeah, I wonder what stop spamming me could mean. I mean, these brothers are just hilarious. Like, they think the whole world revolves around them, and everything they do is so important and interesting. Like, one time on Rogan's podcast, he tried asking Eric how long he'd been playing the guitar for, which I'm sure he immediately regretted because Eric tried giving the most insufferable response possible, which even Joe had to call him out on.
What do you mean? But
I want to play this a little bit because this is the perfect fucking Eric Weinstein as a cringe, warthog cringe, and then we're gonna get Charles Spadille on in a second.
You didn't know you're supposed to play with a
Dude,
pig.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And
How'd you learn how to do this?
I hang out in a room alone. It's sort of dark and lonely. But
Really?
Yeah.
When did you learn this?
This is part of the thing. I do a bunch of things that I don't do with other people, right?
Yeah, he's describing common human relationships. People learn things by themselves. Everyone who's learned how to play guitar has learned it alone in a room. It's like Eric's just like, oh, have you know this thing? You can totally just like spend some time alone and learn how to play guitar. It's amazing. I'm so big brain. It's like it must be genetic.
I just learned shit.
A bagel.
Right, but when did you learn this? How long ago?
I don't even know. Some of it in the last year.
But when did you start playing guitar? You're being coy.
No, I've had a guitar.
I don't like it. I'm going to call you out on this. I don't like it.
Okay.
Very uncomfortable.
I've had a guitar since I was.
And somehow that wasn't even close to the most embarrassing moment from that episode. Like, that's when he felt like he needed to prove to Tim Dillon that he's a real intellectual. So he went on Joe's podcast to try to show the world his life's work, and he completely bombed. It was rough. And I covered that on Patreon if you're interested. But Eric always feels like he deserves all this recognition, like with Trump. He believes Trump.
Okay. Well, let's end it there because it just gets into the we can do more. We can always come back to Mr. Eric Weinstein. But basically, the tilde here on this is that poor old Eric Weinstein is very, very sad that he's not being contacted, that he's not being addressed properly. And he's a prominent Jew. He's a Jew among Jews. Why isn't he on more shows? Why isn't Trump contacting him? Why isn't he the envoy to the Middle East? Why isn't he talking to Bibi Netanyahu directly? I mean, he probably has Bibi on speed dial. Come on. I mean, no Ben Shapiro, no Eric Weinstein. What is this? What is this administration? It must be anti-Semitic. Let's get some Charles Spadille on. Hang on a second here. Let's get this show on stream. Charles, can you hear me? Charles?
Yes.
Oh, hello, Charles.
Hello. Bonsoir, Jason.
Bonsoir.
Ça va?
Bonsoir, mon ami. Bonne nuit. It's nighttime for you, I believe. It is the middle of the day.
Mais oui.
Bah oui,
It
yeah.
is. It is.
We have a very active chat here. It's amazing when you reach out to YouTube support and say, "Hey, why are you throttling my channel?" And they go, "What are you talking about? We're totally not throttling your channel. We're not doing that. Hey, check your thumbnails. Are you a part of your niche? Is your niche changed? and then all of a sudden, all your viewpoints come back the next day. It's amazing how that works. It's
weird.
Weird.
It's probably just your planets were out of alignment.
You know
and now
what?
they're good.
You're right.
You know, you probably had like Mercury rising or Jupiter in retrograde.
Why?
That's what it probably.
I should have asked you this a lot longer before.
Hey, I mean, this is why we're friends, Jason.
I think Buck Johnson. Buck Johnson's in the chat. Hey, Buck, if you want to come jump on, we can get you another guest link. But I'm sure that he's got some ex-girlfriend who I could have asked about this a lot longer.
Don't we all?
And just been doing some yoga, and enjoying myself. And why am I stressing? Charles, how you doing, my friend?
I am very well, thank you, Jason. How about yourself? Are you hanging in there? All the loved ones good?
I am. Deep inside Great Lent. We are on. What are we on? Week 5. You get so far into it, you kind of forget.
It just becomes life again. Like, this is just normal now.
Yeah, normally abnormal. It's strange because this Lent, the last 2 Lents have really been active in terms of like I got pummeled by the demons, and this one they're still around. They're very sly. They're very coy. They're doing their little things. But I think it's more like you become aware of it, and you're like you're looking for the pitfalls. And you go, I see what you're doing. No.
It's like when you see a snake. You know what I mean? At
Right.
first, when you overcome their inherent camouflage, or you're okay. Well, I've got my eye on you now. You're still dangerous. You're still venomous, but I can see you. And now that means the game is starting to shift in my favor. But you can never completely let your guard down, even though you see it, because they move fast, and you can lose sight of them very quickly. But at least it gives you that edge that you can see them.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect analogy for it, because you get to that point where you're like, okay, now I see you, Satan. I get it. All right, you get these little ideas and these little derivations, these little tugs. Like, look over this. Why don't you get excited about this? Like, what about this news story and stuff? I've been trying to be a bit quiet, and it's kind of an interesting thing because it's like you get into God's time, and God's time has nothing to do with what you want. It's all about what you need, and it's a good little shift in perspective to get into, because you sometimes you get I've been looking into prosperity gospel and building up some work for some future videos and stuff like that, and I was going to do one about Rachel Wilson took on this Australian OnlyFans feminist a little while ago on one of these debate channels, and kind of wrecked her. And I was going to do a whole video on it. And it's funny enough, I was doing it and praying at the same time and going through the Great Lent. And I got to a point, I'm like, do I really need to do this? Because there was at one point where in order to do maximum damage to this Australian feminist, there was really easy ways of showing her to be a liar. But in order to do that, I'd have to like get into whole like exciting passions and all this other stuff. I'm like, you know what? No. You know what? It's not worth it. It's already been out there. Someone else has already done it. I don't need to do this. It's because you recognize it's like it's not that the information itself is wrong or that it's bad or anything like that. It's that it's what it can do to you.
It's using the ring of power. Like I'll borrow from Tolkien.
Right.
It's using the ring of power. Will it destroy your enemies? Absolutely, 100%. But what is it going to do to you? What is its cost going to be upon your ethics, your morals, your very soul?
Right.
And I think that's what you ended up hitting when you really thought about it, when you reflected upon it. You said to yourself, okay, well, is this something that is worth risking my soul? Is it worth doing that? Obviously, defending your wife, defending your child, yes, that's going to be worth it. But just attacking some internet feminist, like, is that really what you want to do? Especially during Great Lent, where I know we should always abide the faith the whole time. I understand that. But what I'm saying is when you're already putting in so much effort both mental, physical, and spiritual. Do you really want to derail that at this crucial time? And the answer is obviously no.
Yeah, because so much of it is really about prayer. I was just watching a video of a priest, I forget where, American Orthodox priest, who was talking exactly about this during Great Lent, is that everyone kind of concentrates on the fasting and how your fasting can actually be satanic in its own way. Because if you over concentrate on the fasting, but don't couple it equally with prayer, or actually make prayer the focal point and just concentrate on the fasting, is like, look, the demons can fast. The demons don't eat, so they don't care about your fasting. They don't eat. They don't sleep. What they care about, what they can't do, is pray. So when you're engaged in prayer, you're doing the one thing that they can't do, and that frightens and angers them at the same time. That's usually where you're getting this. I said this with Mano on our last episode together. Is that, and I don't like using these terms because it kind of denatures it, but it very much is a spiritual detox, where you do this 40 days of fasting and you go through different layers of it and kind of peels back and you get to these. I find, for me, before it was always week 3, and now it seems to be like this week, I think it's week 5 now, week 5, week 6, is where I'm hitting that turbulence, where it's getting deeper into your more substantiated sins, like the stuff that's really got a hold on you, and you kind of get to those layers and you start detoxing those layers of sin and passions, and that's where suddenly you excite those, like, that's you're getting to the heart of it, and that gets them all agitated and they start coming.
Have you ever done repair on an old home? Maybe an old shed or an old deck or anything like that. Okay. Yeah. You seem like, man of the world. So to me, I'm likening your words to working on an old house or an old deck or an old building, an edifice of some kind, where you're getting to the root of the problem, that real rotten wood that needs to be split, needs to be pulled out, needs to be replaced. And that's when you're going to excite all the termites, all the bugs, everything that's been, the mold, what have you. That's when it's going to really start agitating. You're going to get all of the issues at that point, and that's where you're really getting to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's to use your analogy, you kind of strip back those layers, right? So it's almost like flooring, right? You see, oh, it's just an old crappy floor. We're going to tear those up and just put a new floor, and you tear that up and you go, oh, there's linoleum. Okay, well, we'll get rid of that. Yeah. There's another layer of linoleum. You're like, oh, okay, well, we'll get rid of that. This, by the way, actually happened to me in a house that my mother was living in that I assumed the ownership of after a bit. And I did change her kitchen floor, and it was one of those where, like, we took out one layer of floor and, like, oh, okay, well, take out another layer of floor. Oh, wait. Well, I'll take another layer of floor. Are we down to bedrock yet? Are we down to anything? How many layers of floor are there? And yeah, it's you do that on a spiritual sense, and that's a spiritual sense though is that it's eliminating these false yous, this idea that I am this. I've connected myself and have made myself this thing, and quite often, and this is a Father Turbo Coyle's point, where as you progress upon the royal path, there's that element of stripping away this false self. So eventually you're going to meet yourself on the road, and not just this image of yourself, but your true self. And that's where things get good or get interesting, because you're trying to get rid of all this I ams, right? I am a libertarian. I am a conservative. I am this. I am that. I am Jason, right? Who is this Jason? Who is this Charles? Who are these people, right? And you are a combination of all that has come before you, and in many ways, if you have children in your life, or you have a child, or you're trying to pass on this information to people, you're trying to imprint yourself. And the importance of that is that you want to imprint who you really are, not who you want to be. That's what's going to carry forward. And I think that's a lot of times this discord in relationships is that you're getting two people. Let's say in commonplace marriage, you have two people who aren't really themselves yet, and they're struggling to find themselves and define themselves not just as themselves, but in this marriage. Because if you get married, suddenly you're no longer just you. You're part of this new. You form a new union, and there's responsibilities and there's a new identity that has to happen because of that. You still there? Do we lose Charles?
Lag? Did I lose you?
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, my internet connection is not the best, so perhaps we're having connectivity issues.
I do a stream with Jim Jotras every week, and he's out in the boonies of West Virginia, and he's an elder, so I'm used to. I did one with him and Tommy, and we had to do two takes of it, and even the second take was me just like I've spent a week, 2 weeks, editing it out because Tommy's internet connection just kept like boop, and every time it clipped out, like the audio would clip out and all this kind of stuff. So, but
I try to turn off the camera at my end, but it won't let me. So I don't know. I mean, I see something that says stop video, but I'm afraid that's going to stop you, and I want to see you because I can read off of your off of your physical cues.
If I don't hear you for a second, I'll check in on it and make sure you're there. Hey Buck, here's Buck sitting in the chat, spurring on other people. Go on the show, start a fight. Go on the show, go on the show. Hey Buck, I sent you a link. Why don't you go on the show, Buck? Mr. Buck Johnson, wearing Mr. wearing shorts. Come on with me and Charles, and you can talk. Sorry, Charles, go ahead.
No, but to bring your point there, as you were talking about, you meet yourself on the road, and I think it's interesting because, as you were saying, I want to kind of combine a few things that you said, where you said you're stripping this stuff away, and I'll also use your floor example, your mother's floor example, where you keep pulling stuff away, and how much is under here, how much of. And I would say to kind of link it all together, all the threads together, I would say, how many masks am I wearing? And when I say masks, I don't necessarily mean you're trying to intentionally deceive somebody. I just mean the face that you put on, because all of us, if you have emotional intelligence, I speak to you differently than I speak to my father. I speak to the women in my life differently than I speak to my father and you. It's just social intelligence. We deal with different people differently. We understand, we meet them where they're at. Not better, not worse. It's just different. But I would say that when you meet yourself on the road, to use your example, you are the goal, as I understand it, the goal is to meet that divine spark, that unique you that is the creation of the Almighty. Mm-hmm. That's what you're really trying to meet. You're trying to distill yourself down to the very spark that uniquely is you, that the Almighty created and put here. In law enforcement, they have the concept of tool marks. It's how they can tell a certain, whether it be a tire, whether it be a hammer or a pair of pliers, was used in certain crimes. They're generally called tool marks. And our lives make tool marks on us. Your experiences leaves certain marks on you, and they leave certain marks on me, etc. So there's always going to be a uniqueness to us. But what I'm talking about really is just that divine spark that the Lord himself said, this is Jason. This is Charles. Now, there are going to be layers added on top of that because he's going to have to navigate through a fallen world. And I understand that. But he has to, in order to return to me, in order to come home, to go, again, something else you've talked about frequently, in order to be that prodigal son to come home, these things have to fade away. Why? Because they're no longer necessary. He doesn't need to conceal himself from me. I'm his creator. I know him better than he knows himself. And it kind of goes back to the book of Genesis as well, where God himself says, who told you you were naked? Like, that's a big line for me. Like, who told you you were naked? Oh, well, the devil told you you were naked. I don't see nakedness. I see the beautiful being that I created. Do you understand the nuance that I'm trying to put out there?
No, absolutely. It's sin hardens the heart. So in the Orthodox idea of heaven, and this really hit hard to me when I had this explained. Hell isn't a place. So heaven isn't even a place. So there's an idea in Orthodoxy called theosis, which is becoming one with God, which doesn't mean becoming God. It means becoming one with Him. So a lot of times the saints, certain saints, just even Saint Paesos and a few others, have said that to be entered into theosis in their life. They begin to glow. They begin to be. A lot of times they're gifted with clairvoyance or these special powers. But people tend to obsess over the powers. How they get there is stripping away all that stripping away. They soften the heart. They become the most humble, and they begin to get rid of that barrier. If you think of sin as a barrier between man and God, and between, let's say, the material realm and the divine realm. Bailey Badley, $20 US. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. That's what's distancing you, and it's that free will idea, which has been used, I think, now by secularists so much to say something that isn't really what free will is supposed to be about. They've reduced it down to choice. Free will is really, do you go with God or do you go outside of God?
Exactly.
And you can live a good life. You can actually, you can technically save your soul and be worthy of God's salvation without God, without the Christian God. But your chances of doing that is insanely small. And
infinitesimally so.
Right. It's the idea that the church is a hospital. It's here to heal you. So you want the best medicine. So, technically, I guess, I don't know about Hindus, that's a bad example, but, someone, a secularist could live a perfectly good life and sort of Christian values without God, but there's nothing holding you to it. And I think that gets us to a bigger conversation about trust and duties and all the rest of it.
But I do want to expand on your point briefly, Jason. When you say that a secularist could do it, it's something that came to me, I want to say, over the last year and a half, 2 years of my life, after I've been through, more than I even care to recount. And you, even with your generosity, we don't have that kind of time on your program to get into all of it. But I did finally realize that many of us, and I will include myself at the top of this list, many of us think there is a third position. And that third position is, I can live outside of God. Mm-hmm. But really, I don't believe that one can. And I'm going to explain myself very briefly because I'm agreeing with you, but I'm also going to address why one's chances are so infinitesimally small to succeed. And it's this: God will respect your neutrality. God will respect your walking away. He doesn't want it because he loves you and he wants his child home, but he will respect it. That's your choice. You have chosen to walk away. Again, much like the prodigal son. You choose to leave. I will accept that. Do you know who doesn't respect your neutrality?
Satan.
That's exactly right. He says, the sheep is going to walk away from the shepherd? Wonderful. Thank you for that. So now me and mine are going to go for you harder and faster than ever before. You thought we were rough on just the stragglers, on just the ones that were furthest from the shepherd, not actually left him, but just the furthest. You, my little lamb, have left the shepherd. You see? See where I'm going?
Yeah. You're the tastiest meal.
Yes. So could that lamb evade the wolves? Yes, it's possible. Would you bet on it? I think not.
Friendly says, what about no one comes to the Father except through me? Well, exactly. The thing is that, again, this is from an Orthodox perspective, is that the Orthodox perspective of heaven and hell is a little bit different. So when we die, in the Orthodox perception of heaven and hell, we are enveloped by, no matter what we're doing, no matter how we've lived our life, we are brought to God and we're given the final choice, right? Which is to be with God or to not, right? The thing that is holding us is our sins. God cannot be in the presence of sin. God will burn out sin. It's why even in the Old Testament, God sends intermediaries, oftentimes Jesus, to talk to us. It's why God sends us his son. He can't be in presence of our sin. He'll actually destroy us, right? He burns it out. Because if you think of this, sin, the meaning of sin is to make a mistake, to be disordered, right? It's usually attached to these passions, to be in this world, not to be of this world, right? The world is the passions. So if you're saying we're of this world, we are full of passions. We're connected to these passions.
Right.
To bring death to the world is to silence the passions in ourselves, to distance ourselves or to silence those passions, lust, vainglory, pride, avarice, the list goes on. The more we're attached to these things, the more we hold on to them. So when we're brought towards God, God will burn it, right? So the idea of hell in Orthodoxy is that we are enveloped by God's love, but those of us who have turned and hardened our hearts and are so attached to our sins that we can't let go of it, even in death, will burn in God's love. That is the burning of hell. So remember, when Christ dies on the cross, what does he do? He goes down to Hades and he harrows Hades. He locks up the underworld. It's gone. So hell, in the classic sense, is no more. No longer, death shall have no dominion. This does no longer apply. So what we're brought to, whether you are a believer or unbeliever, you are brought to God to be part of, to be enveloped in the theosis of God, to be part of God. And the more attached we are of those sins, the more we will burn. This brings us into interesting conversations about is cancer, or let's say horrible diseases that burn, nice, that make us burn. Oh, here we go. Girl Hex, $10. Appreciate you. The sustenance is impeccable. Appreciate it. Where was I? We're brought to God, and the more we are attached to these things, the more that we haven't let go of these sins in our life, the more we will burn in God's love. So it is better to burn in this world than the next.
Yes.
And it's why things like even cancer or horrible disease, great suffering. Because we say the things like suffering brings us closer to God. Well, why? Why do we say that? Because it's suffering, if we suffer correctly and we suffer in a Christian, especially, well, I'll talk about Orthodoxy, if we suffer in that proper sense, what is it doing? It's stripping away our pride, right? Anyone who's been in major pain, right? I suffer from inflammation. I'm in constant pain all the time. I'm going to tell you something. It's really hard to be prideful when you're in constant pain. When you bend over and you're not sure if you're going to get back up. That does a number on your pride.
Yeah. That's a very humbling experience, to say the least. At that point, a very humbling experience. I find it very relatable.
Charles, do me a favor. Talk to the people for a second. I'll be right back. I'm about to make a mess in my pants, so I'll be back in 2 seconds.
It seems that Buck has joined us. I can both see and hear you, although my internet connection is very poor, so we may have a bit of a lag. If I talk over you, please do not take it personally or as an affront. I assure you it's just a technical glitch. Oh goodness. Well, I hope that's I hope that's not true. Otherwise, this is going to be very confusing for quite a few people. Very confusing, to say the least. Certainly, audience, could you hear or see or both Mr. Buck Johnson? Is that possible? Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. That's possible. So I promise everybody I'm not hearing voices or schizophrenic at this point. I promise everybody that is not happening at this point. That is not happening. Also, I would like to point out to the audience at this moment that I cannot, again, due to my poor internet connection, I cannot see any chats. So I will I will definitely ask Jason at some point to keep me apprised if anybody has any questions specifically for me or anything they'd like me to address. I'm certainly not above questions or interrogatives or anything like that. I'm happy to interact. I just want to be clear that I cannot read or see the chat. So feel free to just ask away or fire as you will. But
Buck
I'll
Johnson
just make sure Jason-
is going to join us. He said
Yep.
he's going to be here. So don't calm down. He's probably putting some pants on. He's probably wearing some shorts and feeling some shame. So no, it's okay. We'll get him on there.
I can see him. I can see Buck.
Oh, you can?
Jason.
Oh,
I can.
Oh. You can see him, but I can't. That's interesting. Oh, I know why.
Uh-oh.
Hang on a second. There we go. Mr. Buck Johnson. Where are you? Hey, Buck. Buck the stuff. Where are you? Sign to source. Oh, I know why. Buck, can you hear us? Working on it. Hang on. Cloudcam 3. There we go. Oh, there we go. There's Mr. Buck Johnson. Are you wearing shorts there, Buck?
If sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
All right.
Amazing.
They don't have the mirror your image option, do they?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm still learning this OBS, this OBS stuff. This OBS stuff, Buck. I don't know about it. Seems to fix all my audio woes though. But look at this. We got Buck. We got Charles. Is this the first time that Buck and Charles are on the same stream together?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It is. Most definitely.
Look at this.
Hello, Charles.
How did that
Nice to
happen?
chat with you.
Hello, Buck.
This should have
Pleasure to speak with
happened.
you as well.
I feel like this
Yes,
should have
sir.
happened like years ago. Really, you two should be talking all the time. So I
agree.
I'm happy to be the guy. I'm the guy. I'm the nexus.
You're the facilitator, Jason. You're the
Well,
facilitator.
I got. It's all roads lead to MIRONCHUCK now. Buck, how you doing, my friend?
I like it.
I'm great. It's late here. Charles, what time is it there for you?
Right here, it is now at the tone. It will be 12:30 a.m.
Okay.
Beep.
We're in the same time zone. All right.
Look at that. Love it.
Jason,
CST represent.
how was our night, Jason?
Your night was fantastic. Your day,
Yeah,
your
you've already
morning's
lived
going to be a
through it.
bit rough, but
It is,
we'll keep you together with the soulful weather report with lovers and other strangers over on MIRONCHUCK now. The late show. We're getting all the late people over here. Some people, I'm going to replace NPR with a late night voice.
Yes. Someone needs to replace NPR. It's coming soon.
Right?
It's coming soon.
Yeah, I'll be the Australian desk, and we'll work it out that way. But great show with Mano, by the way.
Thank you. That was all Mano. Yeah, he's a sharp young fella. Young. I say young because he's my age. But NPR. I was interviewed by two ladies from the BBC for 2 hours.
When?
A few days ago.
Really?
At my house.
What?
Yeah.
You let the enemy in your house?
I did. Yeah.
Because they were ladies. That's why. Buck was like, well, ladies.
Well, they're British, so ladies, you know. Yeah, they spent some time with Father John Whiteford in Houston. They came up here. They then went to Father Moses McPherson in Georgetown.
Very nice.
And they're doing a report from BBC4, I think is their a channel or whatever it's called over there, on the explosion of orthodoxy in Texas.
Huh.
This started to sound vaguely familiar from a
Right.
hit piece was done on
Right.
on some of us a few years ago, and it really sounded familiar when they said, reached out after our interview and we said our goodbyes. Do you have the number for Conrad France from World War Now? And it's like, well, he was also included in that other hit piece. So what's going on here? So we'll see.
Friend Lee says $10. Thanks for being a good sport. No, thank you, Friend Lee. No hard feelings, but you know.
Your mother's a whore!
Just saying. Sorry, Buck. Go ahead.
No worries.
Yeah.
No. That was
that's
just
very interesting. That's very interesting.
I sought Father John's wisdom prior to the exchange happening, and he said, you know, I've already dealt with BBC4 before. They seem somewhat fair. And so I did the thing. They were here for 2 hours at my house.
Wow.
Asking me questions.
Well,
What, Jason and Charles, if you will, someone from the BBC discussing orthodoxy in Texas. I'm part of ROCOR. Maybe I'm going to drop a hint here. What do you think they might have tried to steer me into discussion-wise?
Russia? By the way, I'm going to be part of a ROCOR too down here.
Oh, nice. Really? Okay. But yeah, your answer was correct. And, you know, I wasn't super familiar with BBC, but I keep when I talk to friends about it, I mistakenly say NPR, and it's almost like that's a Freudian slip.
Well,
I
look,
think
they're owned and operated by the British, right? It's like CBC up in Canada, so it's funded by the British government. So yeah, no, they're good. What did I say, Buck? Right? As we're getting this neo-trad stuff, the mush Christianity is going to really seal the deal. But the more that this movement goes towards a fake redemption, the more people are going to looking for forgiveness, and the harder times get, they're going to initially be a big rush on Christianity, and all Christianity and all Christian faiths are going to be a hot topic. In Hot Topic, the Hot Topic will be selling a lot of things, right?
Well done, well done. Yeah.
But shout out to Father Deborah Coyles for that one. But my
the icons are on aisle 5.
Exactly. Well, you know, you laugh, right? But bedazzled icons, right? Just like the Holy Mary of Christ with a little, bejeweled kind of situation around it, and that's going to continue for a little bit because they're going to try to get everyone in. And then once everyone's in, the first thing they're going to start doing is excluding the Orthodox. Orthodoxy will become enemy number one because it has a standard. And I would predict that. I know the Pope has just backtracked on Latin Mass, but I think that's another tactic to bring back the more right wing faithful, those crazy traditionalists who worship Christ for Christ's sake. It's amazing. And just seem to have a problem with Moishi Christ and Bob Christ and all the other different versions of Christ, which is going to be on board more and more. Someone who's really in my crosshairs right now is this prosperity. I mentioned in your chat there, Buck, with Mano.
Yeah.
But this prosperity gospel with George Janko. I don't know if you know this guy. He was in the Logan Paul orbit. He did a show.
In the Logan Paul orbit?
Yeah. He was a co-host on Logan Paul, and they had a spat, and he's broken off, and he's doing his own Christian show, and it's just, I'll see if I can play a clip. I don't think you guys can hear it. That's the only problem. I haven't figured this out here on StreamYards, but check him out, George Janko, and he did an episode called the Christian Avengers, and some of the people he's had on this is like Girls Gone Bible. And when I heard about this, I literally did a spit take. I'm like, what? And then I'll see. Oh, hang on. I can put it up on the screen. You guys can see it. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves, and I'll see if I can pull it up.
Girls Gone Bible.
It's everything that you think it would be. Let's put it that way.
I think it's like when I speak with Mano and people that did not grow up, not even just in the United States, but in Texas per se, when they hear stuff that I heard growing up in churches, like, dispensationalism or charismatic stuff or speaking in tongues, or maybe what we're about to see. My foreign friends, which would include you, are like, what is this? And it's like, man, I'm like, yeah, I saw this a lot growing up. Was this a foreign concept for you, Jason, the prosperity gospel?
Yeah, because I'd never really experienced. Tell me if you guys can see this. I don't know if you guys can you see this already on your screen or no? Hang on.
Negative, sir. But I see a window that popped up with your name in it, but it's black.
Okay,
I see that
as well. Over here, window. Okay,
I see something now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
there we
this
go.
This is Girls Gone Bible. You guys won't be able to hear this, but it's exactly what you think it would be. Hang on. Hang on. No, this wasn't the one I was looking at. Yeah. Hang on. Wait. Girls Gone Purify Me. Hang on. Because they have an ad. Okay, here we go. You guys can see that? You won't be able to hear it, but you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
right now it looks like a Summer's Eve commercial.
Right. So when I say the words "Girls Gone Bible" and I say it's a YouTube show with like, they have 730 few subscribers on YouTube. But I think they're over 1 million across platform, and they're part of this George Jenko prosperity Bible, whatever you want to call it, movement. What the image you came into mind, like when I first heard about this, and then I saw this clip, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's that tracks. Here you go. Here we go. Buck, you're not allowed to date these girls. You can't save them, okay? I'm just putting that out there.
I tried.
Yeah, just laughing over the Bible. He.
Oh, you're being for real. I thought you were kind of.
Yeah, this is for real. They do a little dance number. Yeah. This is Neotrads. This is it. This is your counter for the OnlyFans girls. This is what's going to replace the OF girls. Right here. You're welcome. There's levels of hell to this here, Buck and Charles. And here's the thing. No resistance to this. There is no social resistance to this, especially in America. You have pretty young white girls. Pretty young white girls who are back to Christ. Like, what's your problem? What's your problem, bro? What's your problem?
Yeah. Bro, just watch her show, bro. Bro, come on, just watch her show.
Bro, what's your problem?
Come on. It's good. It's girls, and they're going to the Bible.
Gone Bible. Not Girls Gone Wild. No titties. Wow. No. Just Bible titties. This is like, fuck me.
What, I mean, I dare ask this. What do they discuss on this show?
Well, the one I just showed you, the title is called Purify Me. I'll just read you a hit list of the greatest hits.
I mean,
here.
that sounds like it could be an OnlyFans thing too.
I thought it was some sort of twist on a 9 Inch Nails song.
Their last post was called Confidence. It was 5 days ago.
Gratitude.
62,000 views though. Past and Shame. Girls Gone Bible. 62,000.
Oh,
views.
there we go. We're already hitting the #1 hit. That's a Past and Shame. That's the #1 hit because that's just going to be, hey, don't worry about it. It's a browser history. Just hit delete. It's all good.
Right. Purify Me.
I mean,
Purify Me.
It's all good now.
God-sized
Of course,
dreams.
there won't be any mention. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm talking over you.
Go ahead, Charles. Yeah.
It's just. I'm still stuck on. I'm caught in a loop already, Jason, with the whole the Past and Shame. It's like, I can already tell you what it's going to be. It's just going to be, look, we've changed. We're good now. Yeah. It's all good. You just need to delete your browser history, and you're all right. Of course, there won't be anything like, hey, you need to start being more humble. You need to start submitting more. You need to. Nope, none of that. We'll just skip that part.
No sacrifice.
We'll just skip that part. Remember, because you can be forgiven without being contrite, right? Of course, that's how that works, right? You don't actually have to be sorry. You just say you're sorry and keep doing whatever you're doing. That whole go and sin no more. We just tore that. Can anybody play a sound effect of paper ripping right now? That'd be a good one.
I do have them. All I have is your mother's a whore.
Your mother's a whore.
That's all I got.
All right, I'm done my little rant for the moment.
I got an Aussie no.
No.
Yeah, no, it's well, Mano talks about this on your show there, Buck. I just wanted
Yeah,
to check that out. And it's kind of a build up on that. And you mentioned the show, thank you. In my Neotrans prediction, which is it's all that, right? It's that people actually desire. This is building on a Girardian point. Is that the ultimate human desire, the most common human desire, is for transcendence. But quite often, when people can't get transcendence, they want salvation. But considering everything that's come before it in this modern age, they'll settle on forgiveness. And this is the perfect time for evangelicals and all these guys to come in and go, look, you just get dunked in the water, you're good, right?
That's the problem. Yeah, there's a system set up for this to permeate society within American Christianity, because it's like, if you say a thing, you are the thing. And you get, Russell Brand. I've got to be careful how I tread here. I'm not trying to cast judgment upon him, but he did sort of open the gates to this sort of thing with the baptizing his friend in his underwear. And it's like, women like this see that, even if they have good intentions, which maybe they do, I don't know. There's a system set up in place in pop culture America to where the conversion from blue-haired harpy to this is very quick, easy, and with zero sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Here's the other thing too. This is modeling Peter Thiel. Okay. So Russell Brand gets an exclusive deal on Rumble, and around that same time he gets exclusive on a deal on Rumble because he was getting attacked from all these things for his past. Does this religious twist, right? And which is I predicted even before he did it. Not that he would do it, but there'd be other people doing it. Who's the number one investor in Rumble?
Yeah, Peter Thiel.
Who has been pushing? Who is influencing? And now there are multiple reports coming out on New York Times and Atlantic and a few other places saying who's pushing young Silicon Valley guys into the church, because there's a big uptick in Silicon Valley. Who are they modeling?
Yeah, the man who studied Girard.
When Rumble first got that injection of Peter Thiel money, what's the first thing they bought? Locals, who was owned by Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is a class example of the new gay, right?
Yes.
Will and Grace, right?
Yeah.
Sensible sweater vest gay. Would never go to a gay pride parade, piss parties, but in private, private ones. We put the pool in the backyard, not in the front yard, right? You can still buy your kids. Now, here's the thing. I want to believe in Peter Thiel. I don't know why I do. It's an instinct. I don't know why. Maybe because he's Girard and I like Girard, and who knows, right? But I don't know I don't know what he's up to really, and I don't know what his real faith is. So I'm going off of what other people have said and what I've kind of gleaned in my own studies, but I don't know. But what I can tell you is he's the guy who's directing these people into this thing. And it's going to start looking a lot like Peter Thiel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave Rubin is part of the tribe, as they say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and but it's not just he's part of the tribe. It's part of this general movement, right? How long until you hear? How long until Dave Rubin becomes a Christian?
Good question. I'm wondering where that intersection's going at this moment, because the things we're seeing with, you can't just be anti-Semitic. What was the word? You can't just be against anti-Semitism. You have to be actively against it. Or it was like mocking or mimicking the words that Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate, said in 2020. Yeah. You can't just
be anti-Semitism.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And this rabbi or some guys in front of Congress, you get a seat in front of Congress saying this, and I feel like there's this. We have to get ahead of this right now. That I think the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak. But there's this push. Hurry up, get ahead of this, because the walls are starting to crumble a little bit. It feels that way to me, and.
Well, why would they be so worried about anti-Semitism? I just played a clip at the start of the show of James Lindsay at PragerU saying, in 3 months, I don't know exactly when he said this, so whatever, but he's saying in a short period of time, everyone's going to be virulently anti-Semitic. It's like, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they be so anti-Semitic? What do people attach to Jews exactly? Well, money in banks. Huh. Well, if the money in bank situation gets really rough, then maybe they start looking around, looking for a scapegoat. I mean, this is how you get 110, right? Interestingly enough, start looking around for you got some questions. Where are the answers coming from? Why do you think they're freaking out about Tucker Carlson? Why do you think they're freaking out about Daryl Cooper and all these people who are going? Candace Owens, asking some questions. And now we're seeing this in Australia.
You guys have a law being passed or something, correct?
There's a new one in Victoria. Victoria is sort of like, you can imagine it being like New York City, right? Well, if Sydney's New York City, like Victoria would be like LA. So very woke central. They don't speak for the rest of the country, but I don't doubt that there's an election going on. There's a federal election happening in May, so that'll be interesting to see. But I don't doubt that you'll see a widespread adoption of that on some level across on some sort of federal level, and then suddenly you can't. They're saying you can get a 5-year jail sentence for hate speech, defined by what? Who knows?
And I am definitely. It's funny that James Lindsay would be there doing that. I'm not at all prescribing to his silly thing about the woke right and all of that. But if there were such a thing, this is it. and it's funny that he's part of it in the sense, but like they're doing the same thing as the transphobic people or the there's a transgender genocide. We've got to stop. It's like you're talking about a very small percentage of the population. What's the deal? What's happening with them? Same thing.
Well, the thing they don't want to touch on is transgender crime and violence.
Yeah. Well, when they talk about the transgender genocide, I'm like, you mean the suicide?
Right.
That's the thing.
Well, it's not even just suicide because it's going to be working in reverse. They're going to be agents of people who they're going to be violent agents. This is part of the Vengeful Son narrative,
right?
Okay. We saw before Trump was elected, that kid in Texas somewhere where they wouldn't release a manifesto for a long time.
Tennessee.
There's one.
Tennessee.
You have the Zizians, I believe is a name, which is basically a paramilitary trans group.
Yeah.
And you say these things and you go, that's crazy. And you're like, oh no, but they exist. And they're very upset. They're very, very, I don't mean to laugh, but I don't know how it's like, you look at this and you go, yeah, you have at conservative estimates, over 100,000 kids, excuse me, over the last 5 years have been fed puberty blockers in the continental United States alone.
Great.
If you extend that number out across the West, you're into like 500,000 plus. Right? Kids who are 13, 14, 15 when they're given these things and now are going to hit 18, 19, 20 and realize that this is not reversible. Right? And that's coming, just like the bond market, that's coming to maturity at a time when everyone's getting revealed, right? This apocalypse, this glasnost, this perestroika is happening. A lot of angry people, a lot of angry kids, a lot of angry young men who are the perfect WMDs. And I don't mean to drive down the conversation. We'll get to more fun stuff. We'll try to inject some fun into this. We'll go back to Girls Gone Bible if we have to. But I'm schlepping away here, folks. Give me your shekels. Give me your shekels. You like it? You like the show? You like the show, don't you? You like it, don't you? But that's you can't get free of these consequences. I think that's the big thing, right? Here's something I'll give you boys and see what you do with it, because it's been big on my mind. I had Jim Bob on the show, and in preparation for Jim Bob, I had been avoiding a lot of the debate stuff, and I even stopped really. I think I had muted Rachel Wilson and Andrew a few years back because I think my progress, and this is a shout out to Cyprian as well, and even Father Turbo sometimes. It's like sometimes when you're in this progress of becoming Orthodox and you're stripping away all these things, you hit things you're not ready for. And it's not that they're wrong. It's just you're not ready for it. And it's like, right? And you got to like back away from it. And I found it's like, I don't want to attack this, but I'm in disagreement from it. I don't know why. It's unsettling to me. And then a few years later you go, oh wait, oh yeah, they were right. You know, one of the big things, for Cyprian and Father Turbo, was that the troons and the response and all that stuff is a trap. And I didn't understand it at the time. I think I even spoke out against it at the time. And then a few years later, I'm like, no, it's totally a trap. That's it.
Yes.
Because Satan doesn't care. He doesn't care what team you're on. Demons don't give a shit. You know, it's like, oh, well, you vote for this, you vote for that. Fantastic. Boop, off the path you go. Right? Here's a new thing to get upset about. Yes. And it's the same thing with Rachel and Andrew when they were going on whatever and Fit and Fresh and all that stuff and really going hard on the feminist stuff. Not that I was necessarily ever super pro-feminist or what, but I was in that shit libbery embarrassing 90s mindset for too long, and I was kind of stripping that away. And the way they were doing it in their language, I couldn't deal with it at the time. And now we're at this point where I've identified, one, that liberalism is Luciferian, but specifically nominalism and everything that comes out of that is feeding this kind of delusion, this stacking of contradictions. And we're seeing right now we're at this amazing point of history where all these contradictions are about to collapse en masse.
Yes.
You know, and
it's already started. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I was the same way with Jay. I loved Jay. I love him now. And then I thought, I can't watch the debates. Something's off-putting. I don't want to watch him debate people. And now it's like I wasn't ready or something, and now I can't get enough. Every few nights I scroll through and watch his debates because he's teaching me something. And it just hit me at the time. Maybe I wasn't ready or something, but you really learn a lot from this. And the people that are like, well, he's a jerk or he's mean. I understand where he's coming from because he's so well versed in so much of this. And it's like when I would argue with what I thought were normies when I was hardcore libertarian guy. And it's like they're coming at you with these ridiculous arguments that are so old and so tired. It's like, well, who's going to build the roads? Like you've never heard that before. And so now when I watch Jay debate a Protestant or a Catholic or a Muslim or whatever, it starts to click like, wait a second, they're coming at him with these same ridiculous, very low frequency arguments. I get why he can get frustrated sometimes. And now, but watching the way he deals with it, I'm learning things from his perspective. So it's actually helping me. Same with Andrew. I don't know. It's like that whole joke, like, man, it's amazing how much my parents learned from when I was 16 to 22. And Andrew, I would find at some point off-putting. And now when I see him, I'm like, did he just get more smooth and better and nicer or something? Or do I grasp what he's doing at a higher level maybe than I did at first?
Yes, and.
Yeah, both and. Fair enough. Yeah. He'd probably say, no, maybe I am better now. But now I appreciate what he's doing as well. I've still never watched that. I think it's called Whatever or something.
Yeah.
Whatever's
hard. Yeah.
I've seen the screenshots. I've never watched it. For whatever reason, I'm sure I would agree with Andrew. I just can't pull myself into seeing what all's good. It's just too It's just too modern, or not Andrew necessarily, but everything on there. It's just not my style. So I can't pull myself into that. It almost feels like I'm looking at an OnlyFans page or something, looking at that.
Yeah. Well said.
Can't quite do that. But when Andrew does stuff outside of that, I love watching him now. I've actually thought about having him on soon. Jay's just these guys, like to your point, I had a point like I love it. I had all this zealotry or something in me, like, yeah, I'm Orthodox. Let's go, baby. And I loved it. And then there was a period I'm like, I can't do this. I can't watch the debates and the constant bickering. And then I'm back now to where I'm like, I appreciate what's going on with this.
Charles, any ideas?
Well, I mean, just to kind of riff off of what Buck was saying, and I'm not going to tell you what your experiences are. Obviously, that would be ludicrous. But what I'm hearing is interesting because it sounds like the initial phase of zealotry is that taking the sword and the armor of God and going, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to win this one. I'm going to do this. And then you start seeing the mundanity of evil. You start seeing the grind of battle. And it doesn't mean you've lost your faith. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it starts to wear you down because that's what battle does. That's what fighting does. I'm sure you're no stranger to it. So I suspect that it's just the ebb and flow of a spiritual war. And that now that you've had some time, you've dealt your licks, you've taken some licks. Now that you've seen how warfare is actually fought, you're no longer that new green guy in the trench, that new green guy on the field. You've had a couple battles under your belt. You've maybe lost a couple friends, and you go, okay, all right, I'm seeing through a lot of the fog of war. So now I'm ready to get back to the fight with a new perspective and a new approach and a new tactic. Obviously, this is just a third-party perspective. I'm just riffing off of what you said, so feel free to correct me in any way. That's just the sense that I get from what you just revealed.
I think it's a clarification, right? It's like it's again, it's that stripping away of things, and to bring into something else that I'm thinking about a lot about, that secular humanism that got onboarded by the new atheists, and that kind of has taken over. Not officially, not formally, but informally, that's kind of the default secularism, separation of church and state, separation of man and church, kind of movement. Is that now we're at this interesting place where all their narratives are falling apart. Like even you could bring it down to evolution. Even evolution's now on trial. I don't think it's a coincidence, because I don't believe in coincidences, that St. Herman's Press just re-released Father Seraphim Rose's work on creation and evolution, which I'll be doing a reading series about very soon. But you start to look at these things and you start pulling apart and going, wait, what are you talking about, right? Because we now have the power of a mega computer in our phone, and we can run the numbers, and the numbers just on a napkin doesn't make sense. Like, the more billions of years you add to this, the worse it gets for you. So now that the materialistic, nominalistic framework and assertion is breaking down, now we're in this really interesting place where, because the consequences of all these things are hitting home, and you didn't have this 20 years ago, or you could deflect it more. Now it's immediate. This is what's happening to the family. We're in a demographic collapse. Like, there's no way out of it. If things remain the same way in 150 years, some of these places are no longer going to be. There will be no Japanese in the 21st century if this continues. And here's something I'll throw to you boys, because this is something I'm thinking about quite a bit. And Charles, it's something we touched on in previous conversations, is this idea of high trust. So civilization, one of the byproducts of civilization, one of the glues, I've presented this idea of civilizational capital, and part of that civilizational capital is you have three main domains, right? The political, the social, and the economic. And they're building capital and investing it, right? Capital, bringing it back down to Nick Land's definition of human capital, or of capital itself, which is a byproduct or effect of human competency. So I use the example of, like, you take a small fishing village on the Adriatic, they get really good at fishing, they get really good at all things associated with fishing. You keep progressing and producing this capital, reinvesting it correctly. Over time, you get the Portuguese. So you go from fishing village to the Portuguese. I'm interested in that progression. What is that mechanism? And I've kind of started to formalize around this idea of civilizational capital. And one of the things I think is commonplace within all civilization is this idea of a regio. and regio being, in my definition, being something that binds. That's the definition of the word, right? Or one of the definitions of the word. And I'll say that it's both religion, the combination of religion, region, and ruler. So when you have a religion, region, and ruler, and region will include the people and culture in there, you have all those three things working together, and then you can have a flourishing civilization. As those three categories get degraded or subverted or eroded, there so goes your civilization, because you're no longer capable of containing those other three subdomains. So if those things are generating capital, now you don't have the thing that binds them. They become cannibalistic. They go after each other. One of the things that's happening with this idea of secular humanism, and this is something that's really come out of watching these debates, is that, and if I was debating secular humanists, this was the thing I would ask them, is like, why should I trust you? There's no reason for me to trust you. You have no God. And what religion does, both what a religion, ruler, and region does, is gives me reasons to trust you, even if I disagree with you. I don't have to agree with your religion. I don't have to agree with a fundamental Muslim. But I know once you tell me I'm a Shia Muslim, okay, what does a Shia Muslim believe in? What are your precepts? What are your barriers? What's your thing? I kind of know your barriers. Now maybe you're a horrible Shia Muslim, for sure. But I kind of know what your culture and society is going to uphold for you. So if I'm going to enter into a 10-year, 10, 20-year contract with you, I'm not signing it with you. I'm signing it with your regio. I need to trust in that, right? That's going to be unchanging and unchallengeable over time. And this is what liberalism has done. It's completely eroded trust, so that we look at the Russian situation with NATO and Europe. There is no reason for Russia to trust anything that comes out of these people's mouths, not just because they broke contracts, not just because of all these other things, because there's nothing backing them. So it's like, where's your God? Where's your precept? What are you going to believe tomorrow? If it's all based on your fifis and your in your experiences, well, what if your fifis and experiences change tomorrow? What happens then?
Which it has with NATO,
right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'll throw that to you boys. Like, that seems to me to be the real crux of it, and I think is actually at the crux of the natalist problem. Because if you boil that back down to the family, if the family is an internal trinity, right, and the office of the father, the mother, and the child helps form an internal trinity, so something that's stable. The triangle is the most stable thing the most stable unit. If you erode that or you invert it, then suddenly no one can trust each other. So why should I have children with you? Why should I invest in my child? If my child's going to turn on me, if I'm going to turn, or my child thinks I'm going to turn on them, there is no trust, right? So the family unit itself goes to shit.
Take that, Charles.
Oh, throw that right to me. All right. Well, there's an awful.
Yeah,
there's
sorry. I'm throwing a lot of the wall here, but this is where my mind's been spinning right now. It's like, if you start you apply one thing, then you start applying all the rest of the things, and then it becomes like, oh, that's where we're at. We're at a low trust society creates low birth rates.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. But if you'll indulge me,
of course,
and please tolerate my poor internet connection here. I'm going to try and address as much as I can that you said, but I really want to go way back earlier in the conversation. I've said two things on Thought Crime Syndicate time and time again, and I'm going to bring them up here. I want to address your first point about how these lies now just keep falling apart, and I think that's why these people are bolstering them as much as they can with anti-Semitism laws just being the very icing on the cake. That's not even close to the biggest problem, but it's the icing on the cake. It's most noticeable. Well, that entails one side of the coin that I like to discuss, and that's what I call my sweater thread theory. And I believe that by and large, the bulk of people in the West, I'll say in the West, and maybe globally, but I'll just say in the West, Europe and the United States for now, a lot of them now have seen that there's this thread on the sweater, so they start pulling at it. Now, whether you want to say that thread is the tribe, or you want to say that thread is feminism, or you want to say that thread is tariffs, whatever you like, you can pick any one you want, but you start pulling on it. And then what happens? Well, the thread just keeps coming, and that starts undoing the other thread in the sweater. And then when that comes undone, the other thread comes undone. And therefore, eventually, you don't have a sweater anymore. You just have a pile of thread. Now, this makes perfect sense from a spiritual perspective as well, because Satan is the prince of lies, the father of lies. He couldn't tell the truth if he wanted to. I mean, he doesn't, but even if he wanted to, he couldn't. So that's why these things just keep falling apart, and they're only going to accelerate in their collapse. They're only going to accelerate. The flip side of that coin, I did mention that it was one side of a coin, is something else I've said many times on the Thought Crime Syndicate, and that is this: the truth is a puzzle that assembles itself. As you were saying, when you start dealing with truth, whether it be spiritual or physical, when you start dealing with truth, if you are actually engaging with truth, capital T, you will find that it will start putting itself together. When you start observing things, you will make truthful observation A, and then not long later, truthful observation B will stack atop it. And then you'll start seeing that C, D, and E just start dropping into place all on their own. Everything will start making sense to you. So those two things are an inverse of one another, and to me, it's a good example of good and evil as inverted things. So that's the first point that I wanted to raise before I get too far, and it's also going to be somewhat foundational on the rest of what I'm going to discuss. When you talk about, I'm just going to kind of cut right to the heart of the matter because there's just so much to get to. When you talk about low trust society equals low birth rates, we have to understand quite a few things. Another thing I like to say, and this is ironically enough, you brought up Portugal. I am of Portuguese descent, but I'm also of Italian descent. So I'm gesturing to a camera that you can't see me. We live in this, and I'm holding up the OK sign. This is where we live right now. This is the bubble. Nothing has ever existed before it like before. Nothing. We have had more technological advancements in the last 150 years than we had in the previous 15,000. That's just indisputable fact. And it's unlikely we're going to see those kinds of changes in another 100 years. If anything, we're probably going to devolve. But that being said, we have this bubble now here. And we have to understand in the concept in when addressing your theory of the truth of low trust equals low birth rates, we have to understand that we have safety now. We have general prosperity, general safety. Infant mortality is very low. The murder rates, contrary to what we want to say, are actually very low compared to life is not at this point, just to cut to the chase, not nasty, brutish, and short like it was for tens of thousands of years. So we have this illusion now that, okay, well, we could just kind of do what we like, go along, get along, each go our own way, and all things will all work out. Well, they won't. Because once that happens, then safety erodes. Once trust erodes, then safety erodes. Because now I can't trust you to not take my wallet. Now I can't trust you to not steal my bike. Now I can't trust you to do the work that I paid you to do. Okay, well, now once safety erodes, now you start hitting on the hindbrain of females in particular, which is if I don't feel safe, I'm not going to have kids. Just not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. Now, she may not consciously think of that, but that has been instilled in her, whether we want to say by the divine power of God himself or nature or just thousands of years of evolution. Whatever you want to say is fine by me. I'm not here to discuss that particular cause. I am here to discuss that particular reality. And it is an indisputable fact that if they don't feel safe, they're not going to have children. Some may say, and I'm not saying your audience is saying this, but some may say, oh, well, why do they get with thugs? Why do they get with these dangerous men and have children out of wedlock with them? Well, because they feel safe with that thug. They feel safe with that individual. They think that individual will hurt everybody but them. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. Again, beyond the scope. But in their hindbrain, they feel safe. And I'll wrap it up with this right now and hand it over to Buck Johnson so I don't just take over the whole stream. I will say that the TLDR to the core of your statement of low trust equals low birth rates is take safety out of the picture. Women will not have children. It's just not going to happen. Buck, I hand it over to you.
Yeah. Wow, that was good. I like that you initially started with going back into Jason's point, which is I wanted to do the same thing, because in the age of revelation that we're in the midst of right now, things keep falling, and I every time I'm watching, whether it's first it was politics, and it's like funny how this house of cards keeps crumbling. And we saw it ultimately, I think, with this last presidential election and congressional election in the U.S. And it's like I kept watching the left, and this is by no means like, well, everything Trump says is true. This isn't even that. It's just that the foundation of what the left was built on and still is to, even after their loss, I just kept thinking they can't win. There's no way. Too many people, whether it's through podcasts, the internet age, the age of information, as my friend Adam Patrick says, too many people know more than they used to know. And it doesn't mean, I'm not talking history or mathematics, just reality. It's in front of our face. And when you live through the emperor has no clothes moment, which what we've all been living through COVID, and then Joe Biden, and it's just like, enough people go, they're telling us things that I'm not seeing with my very eyes in front of me in my own actual, not my own reality, but in reality, they're lying. And so that started to crumble. And I just kept thinking, and I'd see it happen like, well, there's no way the Democrats can win this. There's just no way. And it's starting to happen with this anti-Semitism stuff that I'm talking about. And I'm coming at this from the spiritual angle, in that I said on my own show, once the right takes power, my biggest concern is this Zionism thing that's been, for whatever reason, a spur in the shoe, or whatever you want to call it, of the right for my entire life. And so this is starting to unwind, and it's the same sort of thing. I don't know how we can connect the dots necessarily, but it's some form of liberalism. It's ultimately satanic, and the lies that the great deceiver pushes, for whatever reason, we're being allowed to see them in some sort of clear way that we weren't allowed to 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, for sure. And I think this Zionism stuff starting to fall. I heard, I think it was Jason said early on his show, I've watched so many things tonight, that I don't think the war with Iran's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with that, because while it's always been a threat kind of bubbling under the surface, how long they're going to, in 3 years, they're going to have a nuclear weapon. Netanyahu's been saying that for a long time, my adult life. And it's not happening. He's still pushing for this. There's people in our circles that are like, well, I kind of like Trump, but oh my God, I hope he doesn't fall for this. Within the Trump camp, there's pushback. Have you ever seen a Republican administration where there's like a legitimate civil war inside the Republican administration saying, if you start this war, you're done? Mm-hmm. And we're living through an age of apocalypse that we've never seen before in my lifetime, at least adult lifetime. And I think it starts with like the politics, but ultimately behind everything is the spiritual aspect of it. And for some reason, the lies are starting to unravel. I think, again, that's why we're seeing this. You can't be anti-Semitic, like, because the lies of Zionism and that whole thing over there, they're falling apart, because I suppose, well, I know it's God, but it's manifesting itself through the age of information. So we're all seeing these things and we're like, this is bullshit. And even mega churches and big boomer Zionistic, like this stuff's falling in the same way that the left fell in this election. Ironically, some of this is being supported by people like Ben Shapiro, who are quote unquote on the right, but like all of this fake stuff is falling, and it's a good thing. And I don't know where it's going to go. I can't predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years, but I for some reason, because God's allowing people to see what's going on to a greater extent than we were allowed to in years prior to this, it seems like the lies are being exposed in a way that I've never seen before.
To clarify my statement about I don't think there'll be a major war. I know the predictions from Mount Athos says, World War III. I think that they're not for me to speak out against it. I'll put it this way. From what I'm seeing, and I'm willing to be wrong, but from what I'm seeing is that I think that Israel will strike Iran. And I think that will be brought to a point of decision. And I think there will be some people who go with Israel and other people who desert. And I think the desertion rate will shock people.
Yes.
Right? I think America will at that point do what Jim Jotras and I keep saying, what Trump should have done with the Ukraine-Russia war, which is get the hell out of there. And I think he's learning a really rough lesson in that A, the Ukrainians don't want peace, B, the Europeans don't want peace, and C, the Russians have all the cards, and there is no reason for them to let go of those cards. So negotiations in terms of you can't threaten the Russians with anything else. You're going to threaten them with tariffs on their exports. Like then now you're threatening China, India, and on all these developing nations. That's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're speed running this whole point of them just getting the hell out of there. Because again, my speculation is that Trump was installed to carry out the directives of the Carlyle Group, which is to build that Iron Dome in America, which is to take on the southern border. It's not European wars. It's not wars in the Middle East. It's not international engagements. It's coming back home. So if that all plays out the way I think it is, then yeah, I think Israel will play that card one last time and be shocked. The world will be shocked at how a lot of major players will go, nah, not doing it this time.
If that happens, and that's a very good point. I hope to God you're right, and I think that sounds legitimate. Netanyahu's done if that happens, obviously, but
he's done no matter what.
This thing about we got to go over there and secure their homeland and build a third temple, that's almost sounds antiquated at this point. And I know maybe Pete Hegseth is younger than me and he's saying it, but there's just too many people that know better, I think, and I hope at this point. I think that falls flat now. That does not land the way it would have in 2003.
The New American Century, if you remember that.
Yeah, PNAC.
Right, going back to George Bush Jr.
Yes.
And his brother and all these ideas cooked out of Yale, apparently, was a veneer for the Greater Israel Project. And that spans from all of Israel, Greater Gaza, West Bank, and stretching all the way up to Ukraine. Okay? Through Syria, through encompassing Lebanon, Jordan, and many other countries, and stretching all the way up to Ukraine. That was the idea, and that was the I think has been the plan. And that plan is now gone to shit. That plan is now being openly rejected. And we know that because of the transference from the open rejection of the City of London. And that's Rothschilds, and that's all those people. And yes, and I know people get very excited and go, it's the bagels. It's not just them, right? It's them and everybody else. And that whole old British Empire, which was really a conglomeration of different empires all held together in one area, that's done now. And we're seeing the death throes of that thing. Now, I think it's going to get ugly. I think we're in for it. But that being said, it's the dawn of a new thing. And this is where I don't no effing blackpilling, because I don't know how things are going to turn out. I don't know how things are going to turn out for anyone in any locale. But I will say this, is that at least now we have opportunity. There is opportunity within this, and it's not just your opportunity to make $1 million. It's your opportunity to see things as they are, and not as you wish them to be. And that's
exactly.
I think that's an amazing thing, because it's getting rid of those contradictions. It's getting free of that liberalism. I've said I think this is just Satan chasing out Satan.
Yep.
But as you know, calling on René Girard again, I wish, and Christ himself, I want to see Satan fall like lightning. I want to, Satan, your kingdom must come down. And if all we can do in our little limited time on this earth with these channels and some of that is to tear out one brick, then God be it. We're going to tear out those bricks, because I think we're at this inflection point where these bricks are people want them to come down, and they don't even know why. Like, feminism is on trial.
Yes,
that's amazing, right? And no matter how you feel about it, it's amazing that it's happening. That you have a whole generation of young girls. I think was it you, Charles, or Dark Enlightenment said that now we're in this period where it's going to be a Gen X head on a Gen Z body.
Yeah, I said that I'll die on this hill. I will die on this hill. That really, if you want to see change, if you want to see things really ramp up, you will put a Gen X head, i.e., to use your phrase, Jason, that'll be your ruler, your region, religion ruler. Your ruler will be Gen X, and the ruled will be Gen Z, and you are going to see things like you've never seen before. And I know people are going to say I'm kind of pulling a fast one, and I don't blame them, but I would actually consider it. I'm not saying he's going to be it, but I wouldn't be surprised if JD Vance is that guy. Now, technically speaking, he's actually millennial, but if you grow up in the Midwest, like Texas or Oklahoma, you know that and I do not mean this in the pejorative sense. Let me emphasize that. This is not a pejorative. It is retarded in the sense of, like, your coasts are like super Gen X, and then, like, as you get in, the generations there are like slightly a little bit behind, just because they don't have the access to all of the newer stuff, out of New York, out of LA, all the entertainment, all that stuff. The internet has slowly changed that. But if you're my age or your age, Jason and Buck, I don't want to speak for you. I don't know your age.
I'm old.
Okay.
We're all the same age. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, like, that folks in the center are like a little bit behind the more you get from the coasts inward. So I would say that, because I know a guy from Texas who's in his early 30s, and he's about as Gen X as they come. It depends, like, if you grew up in a small town, stuff like that. Yeah. So to bring it back, like, I did say, and I will die on this hill, I think the big changes are going to be when Gen X shows up, because they lived firsthand with the whole, wait a minute, what you're selling me is not what I'm getting, whether it be feminism, diversity, whatever, pick your poison. I don't care. What we were sold is not what we got. And now we're going to be the first ones that overcome the Zionism. We're going to be the first ones that overcome the feminism. And when I say overcome, I don't necessarily mean we're going to win in one fell swoop. Jason, you know that I'm always going for my white pill award of the year. You know that I'm always working for
bitter
that.
White pill.
I'm not saying
bitter white pills.
Yes. I am never saying that we're going to win in one fell swoop, but I am saying, praise be to God, victory will be ours, but we're just going to have to work for it.
Well, it's because,
and I want to say one more thing, if I may step back to your point, Buck, and forgive me, I don't want to put words in your mouth again, but you were talking about how it just amazed you that the lies would just keep coming. They would just keep coming. And I think your words were, I can't believe the Democrats can't win this. They just keep lying. Well, I want to prove my honesty with my consistency. It's another phrase I like to use. I'm going to prove my honesty with my consistency. Earlier in the program, not very early, but earlier in the program, I said the devil he's going to lie. He's always going to lie. He can't tell the truth even if he wants to. Well, let's be honest. That's where they really failed. Yeah. And that is the genius of God, in that I don't have to defeat you. You're so far below me. I don't even need to. I'm going to let you defeat yourself. by going against me, by going against order, by going against love,
yes,
you're just going to destroy yourself. And that's what they did. They really, let's take a moment, gentlemen. Let's think really what undid their lies. What undid it? Was it somebody digging for the truth? No, not really. I'd like to flatter myself that I've been in this sphere for 20 some years. I started writing in 2004 on LiveJournal. Then I moved into the manosphere. Then I started podcasting. I'm old, just nobody knows who I am. But I will say, like, as much as I'd like to say guys like me have been working on it, guys like you gentlemen, really what undid them was just the lies. Their lies became so ridiculous that nobody could believe them. Really, the thing that shattered them, and I promise I'll step off my soapbox in one moment, really what shattered them was men can be women and women can be men. Like, that's really what was the death knell of everything. If we really want to look hard and say, what was the final lie that really just started getting everybody going, okay, now this is just crazy. And it was exactly that. Telling me a woman is a man and a man is a woman, that a man can have a vagina, a woman can have a penis. Like, it's just such a ridiculous lie. Even Satan himself couldn't pull that one off.
I'll counter with this one, because I agree with you, but I think the actual straw that broke the social camel's back, and this is because we're haunted by the cross and we are children of Christianity, is the attack on kids. And this is why the revolution of the child, with the eventual son, is going to happen. But the attack on children, I think, was the moment. Children are the good, the beautiful, and the true, contained in one being, right? No, it takes a special kind of evil to want to degrade children. Yes, and I think that being raised in a Western ethos, you have to take a destiny, like a Kumar gremlin, like someone who's, you have to push them so far gone that they're okay with the abuse of children. And I think even them, they might say one thing, but they don't mean it. Right?
May I just step back a moment, just a brief moment? I'm sorry to cut you off, Jason. I just want to clarify what I was saying,
Charles.
What I was going to say is this. What I was saying, speaking to Buck's point, is what made us see the lies, what revealed the lies. And I'm still going to stand on that point. But I think what you're saying, so that I can merge our two statements together into what I perceive to be the truth, is that I'm going to stand on my hill and say this was what woke people up, air quotes, woke people up.
Mm-hmm.
But what called them to action was the attack on children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Forgive me for butting in, but I just
I totally agree with you.
That.
I just think, yes, I think the final lie was breaking your reality, trying to really break your reality, and people going, no, I'm not doing that, right? And then the next thing was the kid, right?
Yes,
because you see these effects happen on children, and that's, I mean, I had my daughter in 2020, so it was just kind of in that moment. But I think even in my most atheistic, anti-theist, progressive, whatever, right, mind frame, you leave the kids out of it, man. Like, they're not, you don't attack them. And when you start seeing this normalization of the golden, of the rainbow triangle stuff, we're on YouTube, so we'll be careful. But like, that kind of activity, that's where it's like, now you're my enemy. Do you understand? Like, we're not just in a disagreement. I'm at war with you. You're my enemy. I will seek you out and I will destroy you. Do you understand? Because you're not just threatening me and like, do what you want to me. I'm 47. I'm old. I'm fit for the glue factory. Fine, whatever. Right? but you target my kid, man. I will tear your kingdoms down. Like, you have you better kill me 5 times, like, because I'll come back. I'll haunt your ass. Like, there's no way you're doing this. And I think that's the final straw. And I think and it's amazing because now they're retracting. Now their retract is to anti-Semitism, which was the original thing 15 years ago, right, or longer. But it's weird how they're now going. It's like a wave washing up on the shore, and now as it's retracting, they're losing their support. They know they are, and they're flailing. So now it has to be, better not say the bad things about the people, because you do that, and it's a Holocaust 2.0. You're like, huh? Wait a minute. What do you mean? let's do some napkin math. Let's add this to the equations. Hang on a second.
Chat GPT, how many pizzas can I make if I have X number of
how many gallons of gas do I need to pull this one off?
They've moved along to a new privileged group, if you will, because the other ones didn't quite work, for a long time. In 2011, or if I remember correctly, it's like once that what was the Tea Party? The Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street were kind of hitting on some similar ideas, coming at it from different directions. With the Occupy Wall Street guys, it's like they've identified a problem, but they're attacking it with the wrong weapon, like Bernie Sanders. Okay. The Tea Party guys identified a similar problem, attacked it with Ron Paul. It wasn't time for that yet. Now you've got people like Elon Musk.
Did I say billionaires? Right. I meant millionaires. Millionaires, Buck. No, sorry, billionaires. Just a billion.
Right?
Leave the millionaires alone. Millionaires are fine now. They're fine. The average person's a millionaire. It's the billionaires we have to go after. Come on, AOC, come with me. Show your tuchus. Show your tuchus on stage.
You're dragging him back out. I know. When those problems were identified with those two groups I think it was 2011. There's a graph you can look at. The New York Times, the word racism and like white nationalism or whatever skyrocketed, because it's like, they've identified the problem. It's the bankers, if you will, who now, you can't say that word. That's where we're at in 2025 with the anti-Semitism thing. So quick, it's racism. And then all of a sudden the woke stuff happened and everyone scattered and went into different camps of like, yeah, you're a nationalist or white power and you're not, and you're not woke enough. You've got to fight race. You can't just be anti-racist. You have to be active, blah, blah, blah. So that all happened to distract people from the bankers. And now, which has always been code for another term. And now that's kind of all been gone by the wayside. It's like, okay, yeah, your guy, Trump's racist. Okay, no one gives a shit about that anymore. He went up with minority voting. And so they've kind of ditched that for a while. Remember global warming? No one talks about that anymore. Like all of these little niche things that they were trying to make a big ordeal out of have died and they don't work. And so now you can't be anti-Semitic. But again, like I mentioned earlier, the toothpaste is out of the tube. And it's not like, yeah, we all hate the Jays. That's not what this is about. It's diagnosing a problem where some of this is starting. Some of the people have to do with that group of people. Okay. But they're trying to wipe it all out again by, well, you can't come after this one group of people, distracting us from like what's right under the surface. I just think it's too late to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, so do you have your boys for a bit longer, or
you got me for like a couple more minutes?
All right,
it's late here.
Yeah, I got about 10 more minutes. I got to.
We'll do 10 more. I've offered Mr. Matthew Erickson a link, so we'll see if we can get the man made of hair on here late at night, but. Yeah, so I think what's interesting to me, of course, is that low level anti-Semitism has been the almost the crux really of the dissident movement, because you get the Nick Fuentes in there, right, and it's almost like lowering down the conversation. And I kind of felt the same way about Candace Owens, but I haven't really checked her out recently. I think she's actually kind of hit a new stride, especially when she's going after Macron's wife as the Troongate, we'll put it that way. The dude looks like a lady situation.
May I address something to Buck's statement?
Of course,
for a moment, please? Buck, you were talking about they retreated. Well, actually, both of you were saying about like a wave and then the retreat, and they've gone back into the anti-Semitism bomb shelter, if you will. Is that, do you think that's an accurate way of putting it, or a reasonable way of summarizing where we were with that?
Yeah, it's just because you don't like black, the BLM, all of that other stuff, anti-trans, blah blah blah. It just didn't stick.
Well, because it didn't have a foundational myth beneath it, like anti-Semitism does. And that's why they are so terrified of Daryl Cooper, martyr.
Yes.
Because Daryl Cooper has awakened his autistic army, if you will. And I say that in a loving, teasing way, not in a cruel, mean-spirited way. He has
weaponized the autist, so it's a very good tactic.
And what he is doing is he is chipping at their foundational myth. And once that comes down, people will understand, hey, we can say the tribe are the problem and not say, hey, we need to murder every single tribe member. Bingo. There is a wide road here. We don't have to pick one or the other. We don't have to let them run roughshod over our society, our culture, our region, whatever. And we also don't have to, et cetera, et cetera. There is a wide road that we can find the center of.
Well, the major point,
and I would think that's why, I'll wrap up right now.
Yeah.
I believe, Buck, to address your point, that's why they constantly retreat to that, because they have this foundational myth that so many people can rally around. It's like why I called COVID, and I said COVID's going to be the biggest thing you've ever seen, because everybody wants it for their own reasons. The left, the right, the center, the anti-rich, the anti-poor, everybody wants it. The survivalists, the preppers, everybody wants it for their own reason. And that's why this is going to be dangerous. And that's what they did. That's why they were so successful. They, the tribe, were so successful at co-opting the Second World War, making it their foundational myth. Because America wants it because it makes them look like the good guys. Russia wants it because it makes them look like the heroes. Obviously, the tribe want it because it makes them look like the victim, and they're spiritually feminine, so they always seek to be the victim.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want me to keep going, I can keep going, but I know both of us need to go to bed soon. But that was just for me to address your point. That's why they're retreating to the bomb shelter, because it's got the heaviest concrete, the thickest walls. But once they get shipped away, it's over.
Yeah, I think we're chipping quite well at this moment. It feels like to me like you can go under. And I get that Twitter's a bit of it doesn't represent everyone, but man, you go under that rabbi guy or whatever speaking to Congress, look under any sort of post like that that's pro-Zionist on X, it makes me feel pretty good that people aren't falling for this.
Yeah, because again, it's like I said, that not to mix a metaphor, but I will. It's that sweater thread theory. Once you start pulling at one, oh, wait a minute, the Holodomor, what was that? Oh, wait a minute, the mass slaughter of Germans after the Second World War. Oh, wait a minute, the mass incarceration of German naval officer or the German Navy after the First World War. Like, wait a minute. I never heard of any of this stuff. Once you start pulling at that sweater, it's not too long until you just have a pile of thread.
Yep.
Gentlemen, let's end that here. I appreciate both of you. Thank you so much for jumping on. And thank you so much for everyone who's watching and subscribing and doing all the likes and all the things. Gentlemen, let the people know where to get
Go ahead, Charles.
Oh, thank you, Buck. You're too kind. My name is Charles Spadille. You can find me on Twitter at Whiskey and Ashes. I am not a vociferous tweeter, but I do drop lines now and then on occasion. You can find my books on Amazon at the moment, both of which probably need a good deal of updating, and I probably should write one or two more. But the books are titled Whiskey and Ashes, an inebriate's avowals, maxims, and observations. The other book, and I humbly suggest those of you that may be dealing with depression, suicide ideation, trying to recover from trauma, I humbly recommend my other work called The Holistic Guide to Suicide, how to basically fight your way out of a very, very bad position, possibly the darkest moment in your life. I promise you, I am not somebody pointing down at you from on high, telling you to just man up and take it. That is the furthest thing from the advice in that book. I am somebody who has gone through everything from watching his mother die slowly in front of him to losing the career that he worked his entire life to get. get. I know what it's like to be in the gutter, and I wrote it to try and help people to climb out of it. So I thank you all for listening. I thank you most of all, Jason, for your time and allowing me on your program. And I do want to say, Buck, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you for the first time. I do hope we get to speak again sometime. Thank you all.
Buck.
Jeez, why did I let him go first?
Right?
God.
See, I knew
Well
your folly.
said,
I knew your
Charles.
folly right away. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, we will be speaking again. That was impressive, and I'm going
Thank
to
you.
look up this book, well, all of your books. But in my profession, firefighting, I have not gone through any suicidal ideation, but we have a very unfortunate high rate of suicide, and many people I know have gone that route. So I want to check this book out. Maybe we'll have you on to speak on it. On the Counterflow podcast, subscribe on the YouTube page, if you will, at Buck Rebel on Twitter, on X, whatever, BUCKREBEL. And this week, the one that dropped is with our friend Mano from the Study of Stuff podcast, taking apart Hermeticism and pointing out how it's the inversion of Orthodox Christianity. Next week, to some of the things we've been speaking on tonight is Father John Whiteford, where we talk about the Schofield Reference Bible, Hal Lindsey, John Nelson Darby, and all of these actors, bad actors in the late 1800s and early 1900s that got Zionism, pre-tribulation rapture, dispensationalism, and things that are very heretical, yet very powerful and widespread and dangerous into American Christianity. Luckily, to our point that tonight, and Father John and I discussed this too, I think some of these ideas are slowly, as Charles would put it, the sweater thread is unraveling. Thank God. And that's about all I got. Thank you, Jason. This has been a spur of the moment thing. I was watching you anyway, enjoying it. And Charles, it's been quite a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, thank you so much for my guests. Thank you so much for my audience. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please like, subscribe, and do the things to help promote the show. We're coming out of the dark ages of the last few months, but it's amazing. You contact YouTube and go, hey, what the F, YouTube, and they just fix things. So we'll get back there. Go Gumroad, buy a subscription. That's one of the best ways to support the show. Buy Tales of the Shadow Empire, or buy a subscription here on YouTube or other places. Over on Substack, Spotify, and all the places that we stream regularly. We'll be putting more of these episodes up for mass consumption as we move forward into this year of the Age of the Vengeful Sun. Many new developments coming in the next few weeks, and I appreciate all of you who've stuck by me. It's very humbling, and it's very humbling to have you guys on, man. You guys are great. You make this old, obsolete Canadian, Ukrainian, Australian very proud to have friends like yourself. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jason Mironchuk.
Wait, Jason, I'm looking forward to next week. Jason versus Julio.
Jason versus Julio. Gloves come off. We'll see if Julio accepts the call.
Cream of the crop.
Cream of the crop. Yeah. Apparently my diatribe, my rebuttals aren't up to snuff. Apparently, they're Buck, but I feel like we're rising. I see you, Hulk Hogan. I see you speculizing.
That's how I know we're all three about the same age. We all got that reference.
We all got it.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you so much.
God bless everybody.